We have plenty of time. Now we're slightly late. It's all good. It's an ADHD thing. It's like once you can't, we can't function well until we're under pressure.
Yeah. I gotta be late to be on time.
And then I told her that over the phone, and then she died. Isn't that crazy?
What?
I'm just joking. I didn't. I thought I usually say something really dumb when we go live, like
Oh
in the
yeah.
moment. I literally don't do that. I've never done that on purpose. No one has died, by the way, folks. Just kidding around.
Just kidding.
Are we live both places?
We are.
Nice.
Hello.
Pessimistic.
Pessimisty
And
optimistic.
The yin and
Together.
the yang together. Ahoy hoy. So tonight is a relaxed fit. I guess we're a little early to say that. It's funny. I see that there are two people there, but it tells me one. God knows. Lord
I see
knows.
5. I see 5. And then Spooky Robin on the tube, on the YouTubes.
On the YouTubes. Yeah, it's just we do have some questions that came into us, and I'm going to expand on them because I can. And yeah,
we do it what?
Yeah, why not? It's interesting for people to bring up certain topics, and we love it. I mean, and someone sent me I have to remind me that there's a question in my Instagram messages because they sent it via message as opposed to the anonymous app.
Was that Optimisty? I bet it was you, Optimisty.
It was not Optimisty. I've been talking to I've been talking to Optimisty most of the day for a good portion.
I just want to tease him because every time I've done those like give me your rec and I'll give you a horror adjacent. You DM me, Optimisty, and I don't have a way to tag it into my little story, so then I can't do it. And I'm like, there's a little box right there. Put it in the box, Optimisty.
Put it in the box.
Yeah. I'm not. I gotta have like once I start a certain way of doing things, I can't go outside of that. And I did some of them in the story so that you guys knew which ones I was going to put in the next video. But I can't put yours in the story if you DM it to me. All right? So there's the full context.
You're right, you done goofed. You goofy guy. And then Pessimisty says, what's in the box?
I'm going to turn this off. It's making a clicking noise. I don't like it.
What is? Oh.
That light.
I thought that was just radiating off of you and your radiant beauty, your radiant, vibrant aura. An angel with horns.
What's the fuck? Don't worry about that. I realized I done goofed. Done goofed
it. Done messed it up. Don't do it again.
Emma's gotten in both videos because she's the quickest. She's my best fan. My biggest fan. My number one fan.
I like to think I am.
You are. I'm your number one fan.
Oh, yes, you are. And we not that we don't appreciate our heads of lettuce.
I just very much all over myself.
That's usually me. I can't tell.
Nope. Off camera, did it happen?
Did it really happen?
Did it happen? All right, let's
some news. Nothing. Some horror news. What I really should do is send you pictures to go along with it, and or be able to, because I know I'm able to do it, or put pictures of myself. I'll be more organized next time.
You can just tell me, and I'll Google it real fast. I'm quick.
Google.
Quick, and then I'll share my screen. I'm quick. I'm getting the hang of that stuff. The more we do these AMAs, the faster I'm getting it live. The more light-footed I am.
All right, so I'm going to start with a question. Well, there's one question that we can elaborate on. It's one I've been asked before, but we still love getting your questions. We don't get very many, so we appreciate it.
We'll ask again. Ask
Oh,
again.
ask
Yeah.
ask again. And also because we know our lives are very long. Just so folks know, if you miss our lives, they do stay up on YouTube in our live tab. If you,
Mm.
uh, El Chubby Cabra, aren't you pessimistic? Are you here twice? Well, thank you somehow. Uh, always
I'm there.
appreciate it. I'll
I
take
love
it.
it.
I'll take
Ask
it.
me a question, bridge keeper. I'm not afraid.
And now you folks can ask us questions now also. Um, yes, this is a question we've been asked before, and we'll answer it again, maybe in a slightly different way, but still truthful.
Mm.
Still truthful.
Mhm.
Because not everyone sees our lives all the time. What got you into horror? And we've talked about that before, but
Yeah.
we can maybe
Yeah.
summarize or elaborate.
I would say it's because my mom's so into Halloween. That would be like probably my introduction to spooky stuff would be Halloween. But I also just always gravitated towards the scary stuff after that. So my aunt being very open with letting me watch scary movies, no matter how old I was, kind of cemented it, I would say.
So I've talked about before that my dad was a monster kid, as you'd say. He very started me very young on the Universal monsters. But
Mhm.
I again, there's just some people gravitate towards certain stories, and some people just gravitate towards spooky stories. And because I remember in the Wizard of Oz, my favorite character, who was a character that scared other folks, not scared everybody, obviously, but
I'll
was my
get you,
favorite
my
character. And your little dog too. Who thought a little girl like you could destroy my beautiful wickedness?
Oh my
I
goodness.
I'm like, okay, obviously as a child I didn't phrase it this way, but okay, icon. Why is she, well, why is she villainized? I was not that advanced as a kid, but I was a pretty simple child. But I was just an average child.
Mhm.
I gravitated towards, and again, I love Dorothy too. But the Wicked Witch was my favorite character, and then it kind of goes with just there's just something about certain stories that attracts people, and some people,
Mhm.
who knows why? Maybe it's because of something we don't remember subconsciously that happened to us as a toddler. Who knows?
Yeah.
They explore it in Skinamarink a little bit.
Mhm. My
So
mom
that's
was really big into ghost stories too, so I did a lot of camping growing up,
She
and we
had a
always
really
told ghost
freaky
stories.
ghost story that you told in our Into the Woods. That's scary as
She told some
fuck.
scary stories, man. So and I loved it. I ate it up, especially because I would hear them over and over again every time, like, different people were around. We would hear the same stories, you know? So a few of them I just know by heart now, and they're, like,
Bedtime
favorite.
stories, the ghosts of your mothers.
Yeah.
My
Um
grandmother has she has a story of, and this is like, to her it's 100% real. I'm not saying it's not real, but it's not just her having fun with me,
Mhm.
or it. And she told me this when I was very young and scared the fuck out of me. That she woke up in a sweat, like ages ago, in her 20s or 30s, and she's 91 now. But she
Yeah.
told me this when I was very little. And someone said something like in a dark voice that they were going to take her soul or something. So she just said the Hail Mary
Take
and the
your
Lord's Prayer.
soul.
Yeah, like that. That's what she didn't do an impression of it. She said it very matter of fact and
Well,
very
you're
like,
welcome.
this is something I appreciate. No, I love it. I appreciate it. But she's like, this is something that happened, and I'm treating it as a serious thing, little
Right.
5-year-old. Uh, and
Which is scarier.
and that her prayers must have fought whatever it was off. She didn't say it was the devil or a specific demon or something, but
Mm.
it was
Mm.
something, and that story she still believes to this day. And I'm not saying it's true or false, but it scared the fuck out of me. So what I ended up doing is, I was raised Episcopal, so I was already raised to, like, say your
Mhm.
prayers at night before you go to bed. But then I do like a PS to Jesus. Uh,
Yes. Oh,
uh,
P.S.
Oh,
by the
yeah.
way.
So I like the Lord's Prayer, the Episcopal version, which is pretty much the same thing except for the ending. And it's like, and will you please protect? And it was like a long list of like my family and my pets, and that, like, please don't let anybody try to take their
Aww.
soul. But I see it looks. I look back on it as funny now. It
Biddy
didn't
dubs.
traumatize me. It's totally
Biddy
fine.
dubs, Jesus. Biddy dubs, Jesus.
Biddy dubs, Jesus. Biddy dubs, Jesus. Hey, it worked as far as I
Optimistic.
know.
Optimistic said it was the Hallmark store for him. They always did it big for Halloween, and he loved it. They also sold this VHS tape, Creepy Classics, which is a compilation of scenes from the 50s and 60s horror movies and trailers, hosted by Vincent Price, which is a beloved one here. And then an all-day Halloween marathon of Night of the Living Dead when I was homesick from elementary school on Halloween sealed the deal. Yeah. I think zombie films are like, I don't know, they're like comfort for sure because there's so many of them, and I feel like I'm always gonna watch a zombie movie, no matter what it is. I'm like, oh, a zombie movie? Watch it.
I think a big bone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and then Spooky Robin had another question, but you can go ahead first.
So I think a bonus of most typical zombie film is that it's really about humanity, really, even whether you
Mhm.
process it or not, but it's still very action based, and so it's like there's a certain element of like and fun,
Yeah.
but it has a lot of them have like a deeper meaning, like when Jenna
Mhm.
Jameson turned into a zombie in Zombie Strippers, and then killed Robert England by sitting on his face and having it melt off with her zombie juice. I don't know. That was a metaphor for war and
What a
how it's
superpower.
pointless. Yeah.
Like, melt your face
War. What
off.
is it good for?
Like,
Absolutely nothing. I'm pulling that. That's not it. But you
oh,
know.
what?
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I know I say
love
things
that.
about movies, but I'm not serious about that one.
That was so good. um,
Except
I,
they have a strip off, because for some reason being a
I think
zombie gives them super strength. I
zombie movies are also like way more accessible for people to make. I think that they're a little bit more, I think, easier to do, because the practical effects are easier to do. We do them for like zombie fun runs. I mean, people can zombie themselves out pretty from different varying degrees fairly simply, from home products. So if you want to
I've
make a
always wanted
movie
to
or
do
a
that,
short
but
film, the zombie creature is probably the most accessible just because it's people with a extra makeup going on, or skeletons, I guess, if you want to go into the skeleton route, but you don't have to because zombies are whatever you want them to be, right? Um, and I like that
contacts is
because
a big one. Contacts,
it
and they're
gives
cheap.
more. Yeah, go ahead. Their
Oh,
shape.
but the contacts really are a
Mm-hmm.
big part of it. Like whether it's all white, all black, or red,
Mm-hmm.
and they're you
Yeah.
can buy them real cheap. I mean, it
Yeah.
might end up in the back of your eyeball, but that's okay.
But
Uh,
it's compared to like other creature design or types of horror, I would say zombies and vampires are pretty accessible.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and vampires. I didn't realize until we did our vampire episode how much I love vampires. I always thought I was more of a
right?
werewolf gal, but
Oof.
totally vampire girl
Yeah.
here.
I think I'm both. Like it's hard to pick, but I definitely lean towards vampires. But I love both. Give me there's just not as many good werewolf ones as there are good
It's a harder
vampire
story
movies.
to tell.
It
It's a
is.
hard.
It is. It's harder to pull off. The transformation is just so key and it's difficult. That is like the opposite of zombies. It's the least accessible because you got to transform somebody and you have to make it believable, look good, and try to use as little CGI as possible because you're going up against American Werewolf in London. No matter what
Oh,
werewolf movie
let's
you
say
make, we're going against it. Like,
what about the one of the worst CGI's things I've ever seen? Not the worst. American Werewolf in Paris. Excuse me. We need to go up against that. The,
I think Wolf Cop nailed it, right?
Oh, yes, it did. And I love that they went that route. I love that they went that route, that they started there. And which
Mhm.
might make sense. Maybe it has something to do with enough blood
Biology.
being there. It's
Yeah,
biology,
blood
man.
flow, you
And
know what I'm saying?
we think of blood flow, we think of wolves and,
He was
like
peeing.
transfer. It's like very physical,
Yeah.
Um, so I also we've talked about it a little bit in our zombie episode. I'm not going to go into deep detail. Is I don't know why I did that voice. Uh,
But
detail, detail is
mhm,
uh I'm not intentionally, but what ended up happening is Night of the Living Dead was it didn't have royalties or anything like that. It could be they could show it and not be charged anywhere. So it was very accessible on
mhm,
TV for long periods of time, and it's a very seminal horror flick for a lot of people.
mhm, mhm, yeah.
Mhm.
So Spooky Robin asked, "What horror movies do you think are not talked about a lot?" He said one that comes to mind for him is The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I think I mentioned The Hand That Rocks the Cradle in
I haven't seen it.
one of our episodes because I was talking about how much I love 90s thriller horror, like Kiss the Girls, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I love those that area of horror. And I'm gonna put that in quotes because some people just don't consider it horror, they consider it thrillers. Um,
Whatever. Sorry.
Whatever. It's horror for me. So my mom and I used to watch those movies a lot. She loved those movies. So I feel like it's like a nostalgia for me and my mom. Makes me think of her a lot anytime I watch some of those 90s ones, especially if it's got Ashley Judd in it. She really liked Ashley
Love
Judd.
her. She rocks. She
If she
rocks.
does. But yeah, there's a ton of movies out there that I don't think are talked about a lot, but we all live in a bubble. So the minute I rattle off some, people are gonna be like, I think I talk about that one all the time. So
Well,
I
that's what
don't know.
makes it hard
Because
because
that's I think that every time someone's like, no, I never see anybody talk about this movie. And I'm like, I talk about that movie like every other video. I always feel that way when I hear people say things like that. So it's tough to say what movies don't get talked about a lot, but I would say generally underrated, maybe. Um, Surprisingly, a lot of commercial movies, I think, don't get their just desserts. Like, I think, I think too much is expected of a mainstream film that they sometimes get a little critically judged too harshly. And then I go watch it and I'm like, why does everybody hate this movie? This movie's amazing. Um, but I also have really low bar, I think.
I don't think you do. I think that I think but the thing is when you from how you really are a great at I was gonna say analyzing. Oh, that's not even a
And
word.
analyzing? Analyzing?
Analyzing
I love an
analyzing
analyzing though.
film, and you really are good at getting to the heart of the matter when it comes to films. And I think that you know what to expect, so
Mm,
it's
mhm.
kind of hard. You don't set a high bar, but you are aware when when a film doesn't meet even the standards you have for it. I don't think you have low standards. I just think you have
Yeah.
realistic standards for certain films. Like you're
I'll
not
take
gonna.
that. That's true. Because whenever I see, like, a certain film that's going to theater and it's PG-13, I'm not expecting it to be like the next big horror film. I know what I'm gonna get with it, like, and I try to go into films with the expectation of, 1, what they're advertising it's gonna be. Sometimes they ruin films doing that for me because I'm expecting one thing and I'm getting something completely different, and that can almost ruin it for me, um, because that's not what you said you were giving us, and now
I
I
know
feel like you're just
Crystal
lying.
has that. Yeah,
Like,
I know Crystal has that problem, like with the
I
Babadook
feel duped.
and
Like,
Sinister and stuff like that. Like, this is not
yeah.
what I was told this movie was.
Yeah, and that could be hard, and then there's sometimes where it's like, nope, I knew exactly what I was getting into, like Cocaine Bear. I knew exactly what I was getting with Cocaine Bear, and I loved every second of it. Same with Renfield. Like, I knew what I was getting. That was gonna be a bubblegum horror film. It was a very mainstream cotton candy horror, and I loved it. I had a lot of fun watching it. I think if you go in there expecting something like The Next Interview with the Vampire, it's gonna be disappointing. Like,
Yeah.
don't expect that. Like, that's not what I don't even think that they advertised anything serious about that movie. Like, everything was silly. So I would say for movies that don't get talked about a lot, in horror, a lot of them. A lot of them. It just depends on who you're following and if you're reaching out to different people who talk.
So I'm just gonna mention a couple films, and
Mhm.
I also want to say hello to Buzz and Johnny
Yeah,
Zuko.
welcome.
Thank you for joining us, and Space Soul Boy. Thank you
Same.
for joining us. We appreciate it. We are gonna mention the films that are mentioned in the chat, but
Yeah.
I think that I think even within our algorithm, because our algorithms are very similar as horror fans, whether it's Instagram or TikTok. Like
TikTok.
usually, like if I was around people that usually don't watch a lot of horror films, they say basket case. But to the people that are our mutuals on different platforms, they know that film, even if they haven't seen it.
Mhm.
So so it's not
Mhm.
like so it's hard to recommend a specific film, especially since our audience, I would assume they know like the
A
next, like
lot.
a lot of the deeper cuts. But
Yeah.
one of the I know pretty much everyone knows this. I'm just going to reiterate it. Tubi is one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my whole life,
It is pretty
because
great.
they have so many weird different things, and
Mhm.
people like to joke like you have to wade through the shit, and there is a lot of junk on there. Like it's like not like the when I say junk, I mean it's not even fun. It's just boring. But there are two films that I came across to be fairly recently that I had
Oh
never
my
heard
god,
of.
that scared the crap out of me.
Uh, the monster within
I
me.
jumped so much. Oh man.
They
God.
will like when if they hear a certain noise, because they're right below me and on my near my front door, and I'm right above them. It's like they're not even in the room with me right
Yeah, that
now.
got me.
My big handsome boys and my big tough German girl down there.
Mm,
Um, they could come up here, but
doing their job.
they think I'm weird when I'm talking too much on the computer. Uh, they're like, "What is she doing?" I don't. But anyway, so two movies that I actually have never heard folks talk about within my algorithm. That so I'm not saying they are lost films or unusual, but they were very new to me
Mhm.
that I personally hadn't heard of. And one is called The Disembodied, and
Ooh,
it kind
I
of
like
has
the
a little
title.
bit. I do too. I think it has some story problems ultimately, but it
Mm.
has a Henenlotter vibe, and
Ooh.
like I can't even really describe the film,
Everybody
but it
drink.
two different women in a hotel. One is
Hello, the
using an
clown icon.
alien.
Welcome.
Hello, clown icon. Using an alien that she's kind of like an alien like that, and she has to feed on brains. It's
Mm.
and it's really it's either early 90s or late 80s, I believe, very early 90s, and it's a very unusual film, and it's very good. I again some story problems, but it's definitely worth a watch, and that's called The Disembodied. It's on
Mm.
Tubi. And another film that I big huge giant asterisk on this one is that it is I was talking to Optimisty about this film like a few hours
Is
ago.
this the one that was on
uh
your Instagram?
what yes, yes. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to go deep into it. So it doesn't show things graphically, but it has disturbing topics. Definitely be a little more prepared for this one. I know Sydney Prescott, who I don't think is here tonight, but when I in my Instagram story, she had mentioned she had seen it, and she also was like, "Oh my god, like I did not expect it to be that." It's called In a Glass Cage. I'm not going to go into detail about it because there's certain things about it that I don't know. You can read the description. Sometimes it's I don't think it's a good comparison, but it's thematically maybe as disturbing as Salò 120 Days of Sodom, but it's not as viscerally graphic.
Mm.
But I what I liked about it, and because I never heard about it, what I liked about it is these are characters that are doing irreprehensible things, and to different degrees, but it kind of triggers that you never feel sorry for them, because one is like a former Nazi doctor in the concentration camps that finds out he likes killing little boys. That's all I'll say. Like the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst.
Mhm.
But he needs an iron lung to breathe, and so when he's taken off that iron lung, you feel that like you don't feel sorry for him as a human being. He kind of doesn't deserve good things to happen to him. He's horrible, but he can't breathe. So it's like you have that like, oh my god, because you know
A
this is like
visceral
this.
reaction, right? To
Yeah,
suffocation generally, like
generally, and so
Mhm.
the film works well with stories and themes to to kind of work, kind of us to evaluate violence and us to evaluate the discomfort of
Mhm.
what is to be done about people that do the unspeakable. It doesn't show the unspeakable very much, but I'm not going to say it's not graphic at all, but
Yes,
it's
speaking about
definitely
the
not,
jackass
it's not
page.
solo. Yes. So I definitely, and then the ending might be a little bit iffy, but generally I think it's a very good film, but it's not for everybody. But that's another, it's on Tubi and other places too. I'm like, I've never seen this before
Never heard of that,
on
yeah.
are well versed people. Like there's a few people, Marta McFly is definitely one of them, that really talk about a lot of films, different types of films, and really go into depth and are very smart about it. I've never even seen it like in the reviews. It's like, oh, this is one of the most disturbing movies kind of list, but I've
Yeah.
never seen it before in on any disturbing movie list personally. So
Mm,
again, it's not like it's a, so I thought it was good, and something worth watching if you can handle the subject matter.
mhm.
It's weird, man.
I think we're really fortunate because you, me, and Crystal have such varying tastes of what we gravitate towards in horror that it makes it hard for us to miss things. Like, because we follow each other's letterbox, we're following each other's Instagrams, we're always communicating in some way or another what we're watching and what we're catching, and whether it's in Discord or whatever. And so I feel like I'm hardly missing anything. Like I know something's out that I could watch because either our community in Discord tells us, you guys watched it and it's on your letterbox list and it pops up in the alerts in Discord, or I see you talk about it on Instagram or TikTok. Not to mention all of our mutuals on TikTok and Instagram who also do what we do, that I get to hear from on a daily basis. So I really think it's hard for me to answer like what is not talked about, because even that one I was like, oh, that's the one you talked about on Instagram. So it's talked about to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you
no,
already talked about it, in my opinion, but I get what you're saying.
you
I'd
know,
never
it's
heard of it
special
until
to
you talked about
me,
it.
and I'm the only person that's ever seen this film ever.
Totally,
Excuse me,
totally.
no
The
one
only
else
person
has
I've
seen this
ever heard
film.
it from.
Nobody else has seen this film, just me. The director made
We
it in like 1980 something and sent it to me once I was old enough to watch it, and no one's ever seen this film, and I'm special, okay? I'm special.
That's true, Pessimisty. Like, between us 3, like, very little eludes us, in the horror genre, and I don't wanna say that, like, because 'cause we're so fucking awesome. That's not what I mean. It's just because between the 3 of us, I'm looking out for movies, she's looking out for movies, Crystal's looking out for movies. Whether I think it's something I wanna watch or I think something that maybe Emma or Crystal will wanna watch, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it in Discord. I'm gonna mention it to them even if they missed it. I mean, we're definitely constantly like looking for shit to talk about. So
I have
it's just
something to reveal to you, Justine. I have
yeah.
I have to reveal. I'm disappointed, but I'm the only one. I seem like I was the most resistant for those that have seen that. I think it's a lie, but I don't know if it's still
Ooh,
there. I'm the only one that's watched a 1313 movie. I've watched 4. And
oh. We're gonna do like an episode, right? At some point. So
yeah,
I'll watch it
we
when we do
got
the
it. We got
episode.
it.
You better believe I'm not gonna try to suffer through those movies more than once. Like,
Oh, nor should you. The worst one,
like,
which I've said before, so I'll keep it kind of short, is that the worst one, which one? It wasn't actor slash model. It was a different one. I don't know. It doesn't even matter what the title of
In
it
point
was.
of fact,
Okay.
we are awesome according to Pessimisty. So
Thank you,
thanks.
Pessimisty. And well, I had to scroll back because some people made some good suggestions in the
Yeah,
comments.
I see the mayor on YouTube. He said Stoner Snake. His buddy started production on it, so keep an eye out for that one in the future.
Nice. Send us
Um,
the link, or if it's
Johnny Zuko mentioned, yeah, send us a link. You can hop in our Discord and make sure that you're in there, and you can go ahead and promote it in the self promotion channel as well. So do that. Johnny Zuko mentioned Pacific Heights and Unlawful Entry are highly underrated. I have no idea either of
I've never
those.
heard of them.
I've
No,
never
those
heard
are
of
new
them.
to me too.
So
So
looks like stuff eludes us after all. I put my foot in my mouth.
they're going on my watch
But it
list.
didn't.
So thank you.
But technically, it didn't elude us because you guys brought it to us. So great community. Okay. Let's see. I've never heard of the Vineyard. The
I haven't heard of
Vineyard.
that either.
Me
It
neither.
sounds slightly familiar. And then Hausu, Optimisty mentions, which is a great, crazy, wild film. House from Japan. You
That
gotta
one cool.
experience it. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
Visually
Uh,
stunning.
and hilarious.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like some like the
We
all
do have a Discord. Link is in the bio. Oh,
yeah
I
we
don't
do.
know. What is it called on Twitch? It's not a bio, but we have our link tree there somewhere.
If you go to the main profile of the thing,
Go to the thing that
uh,
says links, like an
I have
exclamation
all the
point.
links in my. I have a link tree on. I'm pretty sure on all my social medias. I'm Emma of the Impact everywhere. I have a link tree, and the links for the podcast stuff is there as well.
Links.
And our invite link is like there's no expiration date, so you can
Yeah.
use that pretty. And then Pessimisty says a big favorite of mine I never hear people talk about is Split Second with Rutger Hauer. And I haven't seen that. I don't know that one at all. See, this is how we like have sometimes seem like we have deep
Yeah.
cuts. It's because we know people that have deeper
We know people
cuts.
who know deep cuts. I'm not the deep cut person. Like I used to be, I think back in the day when there were Walmart bins and like 8 Films to Die For was, a thing.
Or
That's
IFC Midnight.
yeah,
That
I
was
would
yeah.
always like seek those out in the bargain bin for something that had a cool cover or looked cool or had an actress I liked. Like the one with Lena Headey in it that's from 8 Films to Die For. I watched that because Lena Headey was in it and it was an 8 Films to Die For and I just would
What
buy
was the
them.
movie about?
I don't even remember. I think she
But it's
was
fun.
I think she had like amnesia or something. I can't remember.
Lena Headey was amazing in it is the point. Lena Headey
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah. But I would always watch those movies and I feel like those today are deep cuts because they never really like gained a lot of attention outside of maybe the what is it called? The festival scene. Like, now the festivals and stuff are so popularized on Instagram and TikTok that deep cuts are just not really so deep anymore unless you're going on YouTube and finding yourself some short films. So they're not as many.
Space Soul Boy mentioned a film that is on Max because it's just Max now, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Space Soul Boy in case anybody's unaware of the HBO Max merger thing. Is a movie called Reality. So I have not heard of
Ooh,
that one either.
I haven't heard of that one either. He also talked about how there's House and then there's Housu. House is one of my favorite series. That is,
All
if
five
you
of them
like,
are fun.
if you like any of the like Army of Darkness, any of the Evil Dead trilogy, the original trilogy, you would probably like the House series as well, because they're fun like that. So I would definitely check those out, and I loved those as a kid. My aunt had the box set, the VHS box set that had like the hand on the side that was like ringing the doorbell when they were all next to each other on the
That's
spines.
cool.
Yeah, it was pretty sweit.
Professor Missy
Yeah,
asked if
there's
there's
like
5.
5.
The 4th and 5th one I think are hard to find right now, but they
Mm,
do exist. They do
yeah.
exist.
Yeah, they came in that box set for sure. Let's see, what else do we got here? Unlawful Entry stars Kurt Russell and Madeline I love Madeline Stowe and Robert Patrick. It's about an LAPD cop that's obsessed with Madeline Stowe. I am too. Samesies. I love Madeline Stowe so much. Bad Girls is like one of my favorites.
I don't think I know I have seen that. Yeah.
It's so fun. I love
Hel-
it.
Hello, Purple Garlic. Thank you for joining us. We're just doing, for those
Hi.
that just kind of popped in throughout us talking a lot, which is our usual, is we're just having a relaxed fit tonight. We're doing
Hey,
AMA and some
Draggy.
horror news. Um, and you can ask us questions. We'll try to keep up. I'll mention a little bit of, this is a short news thing
Fire.
that
Thank you, Johnny Zuko. Bad Girls is fire. I just rewatched
um
Silverado the other night too. I was on a Western kick. Like I watched The Magnificent Seven, the new one, and I was like, I don't recommend this movie, but Ethan Hawke, Emma, looks pretty good in this movie.
I
So,
can't say no.
and I don't hate it. I mean, it's a
I
cowboy
haven't
movie. It's
seen
a
it.
Western. It's just like all the others.
I love westerns, but that's one of the best. One of my favorite westerns that my grandmother Mariette showed me was the original
Yeah, it's okay.
Magnificent Seven. I mean, it's not Precious where I can't watch a new one, but I just haven't seen it yet. As
It's fine. It's no
you know,
Silverado.
Yul Brynner walked like a lion. Have you seen that? He just had a walk and a command about him. Like, whoa, who is this guy? And it's also a brilliant. It's
I
interesting. It has
haven't
an
watched
interesting
that yet.
story that it inspired Kurosawa to do the brilliant film that is Seven Samurai, and the fact
Yeah.
that it's kind of weird that Magnificent Seven was the one that inspired that as instead
Oh,
of
I thought it
the other
was
way
the
around.
reverse.
That's what you would
That's
think,
so
but
funny.
not that time. But there's something about the loners, the mysterious stranger.
I'll be your
Um,
huckleberry.
uh,
Sorry, I'm responding to comments too while you're
isn't that
talking.
from Tombstone?
Yeah, he said, have you guys watched Sisu? And I said, no. And then he said Silverado Rules, Pessimisty did. And then he said, and Tombstone. And then I said, I'll be your huckleberry. Yeah, I like Tombstone. I liked
The Quick and the
Westerns
Dead
for a
is
long time.
fun.
The Quick and the Dead is so fun. I mean, it is so 90s too, like early 2000s,
I
90s
love
feel.
that about it.
I love it too. It's so good.
Here's where I get slightly snooty, I guess. Not really. So the festival, it was like not like a tiny festival. Like there
Sure.
was a showing of 5
No.
films in Austin. It was about Paul Newman's version of the westerns that were kind of a commentary on violence and how the westerns. It was like a war on John Wayne's westerns, and I can't tell the story as charmingly as the presenter, but so I won't attempt. But it was really interesting. Like Judge is it Royby? A very funny movie, and then there was a Robert Altman film as well about the Buffalo Bill one where I'm like I've never been into Paul Newman,
Mm-hmm.
but he was wearing like leather boots like up to his thigh, and I'm like, and he had long hair. Well, it was a wig in the movie, but when he had it on, it's like, hello,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Newman. Oh my
Oh
god.
my.
Oh my,
Have you
hello.
seen that outfit that Sean Connery wore for that one movie with the
Which
tall
one?
boots? Where he had the like boots that went all the way up to his thighs, and then he was wearing like a
Oh yeah, that
speedo and
famous
like
photo. Yeah.
yeah, Zara.
Stardust.
Yeah.
So I love but
As soon
I
as you
still
said knee-high boots, I thought of that.
the whole outfit is amazing.
Yeah.
But I still love the John Wayne westerns. And Oxen. What is it called? It's like Oxen. It's not Oxen Bow, is it? The Oxen Bow incident, something like that. There's a lot of
Mm.
interesting stories that are told through westerns, and again, the mysterious stranger, whether it's just pandering or actually legitimate. I'm drawn to, and not a Western, but Mona Lisa and the Blood
The
Moon is one of
Oxford
those.
incident.
Oh my god, I actually got it kind of right.
Kind of right, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Love
good.
it.
I think men look amazing as cowboys. I recently watched Strange Way of Life, amazing short film. I watched it in a shameful way, in the sense that it's not available yet, so I'm not gonna bad. But I'm gonna buy it if I can someday. Anyway,
what's our next question? We gotta have another one.
Do you want a more in detailed question or a light question?
Dealer's choice.
All right. Well, here's a question that's not related to things we usually talk about, which is fine.
Oh,
You can ask us whatever.
Whatever.
Are you
Literally
guys?
anything.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you ask something really upsetting, I'm just going to ignore it, which only happened once, and it's not even an interesting question. Not worth getting into. Are you guys Swifties?
Sure. What does a Swiftie like really entail? I mean, I think Taylor Swift is very talented and her music is easily stuck in my head all the time. So
I think it's just being a Taylor
she's a great
Swift
performer
fan.
too. So yeah, I guess I'm a Swiftie. I think she's great. I don't really do music really that well. I'm not good. Like I don't go to concerts and stuff, so I wouldn't be like jumping at the next Taylor Swift is in Seattle woo thing. But I do listen to her songs, and I love her performances when I do see clips of them and stuff. And I think that she's got a good head on her shoulders. So
I don't really I know her stuff. Like, I always say she's a good kid, and she's only like 2 years younger than me. This is so ridiculous.
Really? Oh,
She's
I
born in
thought she was
1989.
much younger. Oh,
No,
oh
I
yeah,
think
duh.
I always
Like a
think
whole
that
album.
too. I think of that too, because I think I have her stuck in like 2003 in my head.
Yeah.
Just like myself. But so I don't know a lot of her songs, and that there's no reason for that. It's not my type of music generally. I'm sure if I sat down and listened to a lot of her albums, I'd find songs that I like. When I was a teenager, when we were teenagers, she wasn't as big yet. She was just starting, and she was popular, but it wasn't to the amount now. And I was a new metal goblin.
Yeah, when she was really popular, I wasn't listening to that type of music, and I think she did cater more to a slightly younger group than us when she was like really peak, like a rising star. But then her journey into pop is when I started to really listen to her more, and I think I think she's very talented. Yeah.
I mean, I am more instead of into the Taylor Swift. I know she does a lot of hints and stuff in her music and albums and liner notes or what have you about what her next album is going to be, or about her. I don't know. I don't want to like overstep, because I really don't know much about her. But she makes a lot of people really happy, and I'm all for that.
But yeah, she seems like a very, very good entertainer and a smart businesswoman. So power to her.
I don't know much about her.
I haven't heard anything problematic. Yeah. So I don't have anything really. I don't want to say that I'm not a Swiftie. I guess so. I would root for her. So
look,
Swiftie?
I'm too like, because I am like, no one understands me, because I am so deep. I just want people to understand the lore behind each mask change that Slipknot goes through. I mean, do they even know? I mean, I'm too busy. I mean, I'm glad that Taylor Swift fans, I'm totally joking when I say this to preempt this. I'm glad that Taylor Swift fans have like a healthy relationship that's normal with their parents, but not all of us have that. So, I push the finger into my eyes. The only thing that takes away.
I am just like with movies. I am a sucker for the stuff that works commercially. It gets in my head. I am a victim to that. I am the target audience. So when it comes to Billie Eilish, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift, there's some of their songs I really love. Seven Rings by Ariana Grande. That song's legit.
For
Oh, we
some,
got a big old question. Hold on.
so with the Swifty thing,
She's
like
fine.
as a person that is in my 30s, I don't know many Ariana Grande songs. I know more Billie Eilish songs. I don't know anything about them really personally. So I can't really speak on. But you know, they all have some good songs. Uh,
Oh, that's a great question. I have a lot to say about that. Okay, so the clown icon says, I used to follow a YouTube channel that, in their own words, covered forgotten horror or obscure horror movies, yet they unfollowed them because when they reviewed newer releases like Evil Dead and the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, or sequel, they didn't judge them on their own merit, and instead they clung on to the original. Like Evil Dead Rise wasn't funny enough, and too much gore. What are your thoughts when people are so deep in nostalgia they refuse to accept new takes on legacy films? So I don't care if they have that take. I guess it's unfortunate if you have a huge platform that you are kind of negatively talking about any horror, I guess, in a way that would create a divide like that, because I like the old stuff and the new stuff. I don't think there needs to be a division there. I think it's a weird progress stopper to want to cling to something and have everything be like it, but then be mad about remakes and sequels. Like you can't have one without the other. Like you can't have new stuff without people trying new stuff. You can't have new takes on things without people trying new takes on things. Um, and it may not be for you, and that's okay. So I like remakes and sequels. I tend to like remakes more. I think we have a good record for good remakes out there that a lot of people really love, that introduce and bring a lot of people into horror that weren't necessarily huge fans of it, who don't like those old 80s movies or 70s or 60s films because they didn't get into film until later, and that doesn't do it for them. It's cheesy or it's goofy and it doesn't work for them, but a remake would. So they're still getting the lore, the cool like story or introduction to horror, but they're not they shouldn't be shamed for liking that thing, and it shouldn't be shamed for doing it either, because I like seeing new attempts or takes on certain things. So I'm not against it. I think if you want to cling to your nostalgia, cling to it, but maybe not be too much of an asshole about it. That's all.
I don't know the podcast they're referring to, but
Me
again,
neither.
I think they're allowed to have that take.
Yeah.
But I am more, and that's why I love what we do here. Is I tend
Mhm.
to cling a little closer to the original sometimes. But
Yeah.
when there's a remake, it depends on the movie too. Some I'm
It does.
closer to than others, and I always like to preemptively tell people I kind of have a relationship. I have a relationship with this film. So I have a little bit of a clouded opinion. But
Mhm.
when a remake comes out, I try my best to judge it as its own film separately, and like not thinking about comparing it to things before, and then thinking of the frames of a remake or reboot or sequel is what did they do to make it its own, how did they incorporate the past lore, how have they made it more interesting or spookier, like what have they
Mhm.
added or done differently, and what did it have purpose, even if the purpose was simply that's going to be really fun to show that, it doesn't have to be deep
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, did the film, like, which is usually the general assessment of a film, is did it do what it intended to do? And it's impressive when certain films that are sequels, reboots, what have you, do exceed even more so, like the remake, the original requel, if you will, of Evil Dead, is that it wasn't fun. It didn't have the comedy aspect that much. It was a
Mhm.
little funny, but not as much.
And that one's my
But
favorite.
I love that one so much. I love it.
So
It's and like if I watched that as a standalone, so the fact that it was such a we loved it so much, and I can't compare it to the first one. And especially since whenever I watch a film so young, I don't really think I can compare it to a reboot or remake, because it's never going to be that thing I saw and fell in love with and helped me fall in love with horror and different types of
Mm-hmm.
storytelling when I was 12. There's a certain relationship you get with films when you're younger. So I respect people that want to just say, hey, why the 80s was the best decade and let's stay there. That's fine, but I think that I don't I you're allowed to voice your opinion, but it is a shame not to open up to new stuff, which I do
Mm-hmm.
see. It does happen. But I think most people try their best to have an open mind. I loved Evil Dead Rise.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Loved it. And as its own film and as, what is it
A
technically?
continuation. It's like a
Continuation.
continuation of the universe, the Evil Dead universe. I think technically that's exactly what the Evil Dead 2013 was as well. Was supposed to be just an expansion on the universe of
Yeah, they were
Evil
gonna make
Dead and the
more, but they didn't.
ideas. Yeah, and that I honestly think because of that exact thing is why the 2013 Evil Dead didn't do so well, is because it was so different and it was such a beloved franchise, that we didn't have the type of social media that we have now, where everybody talks about it now and they talk about it as like one of the best remakes or sequels out there. And I think that is why it took us till 2023 to get Evil Dead Rise, because we probably could have had more Evil Deads if it would have been more accepted when it dropped. And I loved it when it dropped. And I remember people shaming me for it, saying that I'm not a true horror fan. How
Oh
could I like
God.
that when I don't like and say that I'm a Evil Dead fan? I'm like, because I do like it. It fucking rocked. It was a great film. Fede Alvarez had his own take on it, yet still it felt like an Evil Dead movie. We talk about this a lot in our Evil Dead franchise episodes. So if you guys want to check that out,
And our
to get
cinematography
more
episode as
depth,
well.
yeah, and our cinematography episode, because we do really like that film. I believe it's mine and Crystal's favorite in the franchise, both of us, right?
I
I might
think
have to go
so.
rewatch it to see our rankings. You can see our rapid fire rankings on that.
If it's not Crystal's
I know it was
first,
my
it's your
number
second.
one. Yeah, it's up there. um, so it's I don't know. I am okay with you not liking new horror, but maybe not like try to rally a group of people to not watch it at all or to go into it with a negative mindset before you even know or see it. Like I think we should always give horror a chance. Um treat it like blood and honey. Be really
I
excited whether it's
I
good or
think
not. Like
I mean, we all know, because some people, like, they just did it for money. Yeah, any sequel, or any
any
reboot or
movie.
remake, any movie, yes, but I mean,
Like
but especially so with those, even more so, that because they don't have to spend as much on advertising, is usually this more of a decision on production accountants. But that doesn't mean when the movie gets made that there aren't people that care about the original or care about telling a good story. Sometimes no, sometimes that doesn't happen. But like
the Nightmare on
again,
Elm Street remake.
not my favorite. And I didn't like the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I didn't
I
expect
did,
it. I
but
didn't
didn't.
expect it to be like the original at all. I didn't expect that, and I don't want to go to, because we have some other questions and stuff going
Yeah.
on. But if you want to know, I didn't think it did its job. I didn't think it was a good movie separately, and that's just my opinion. And that is a film. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorite films. I do have a little bit of a bias to it, but I don't think that's clouding me with this particular one. I love all
I
the
don't
other
think so
ones.
either, because I
I love
enjoyed a
3D.
lot of elements of the requel on Netflix. I loved a lot of elements, and I talk about them quite a bit. But I feel like they made one really bad decision that domino impacted that entire movie, all because legacy characters were a thing all of a sudden that they wanted to do. And that one thing kind of killed the storyline for me on what they could have had if they would have just, I don't know, kept Richter and not brought back Sally. Like, it would have been fine. It would have been a cool, like, version or entry into the franchise. But instead, it did feel like more of a cash grab when that happened. Like, it soured it for me. But there were some really great moments. Like,
there were some great moments, and I think it should have leaned into being just a fun kids getting killed or not getting killed by a chainsaw maniac, which is not what the original is, and we know that. But I think they should have leaned more into that, because I think that's what people wanted. They brought up some, again, I'm not going to get into that part, but they brought up some political topics, but then said nothing about them. Why even bring it up then? Just be a fun movie. It's okay. You don't have to be deep. You know?
Yeah, and if you are going to bring that stuff up, then I don't know, don't bring Sally into it as a U.S. Marshal. It just, there's a lot of conflicting thoughts that were happening, like they were trying to please too many people in that movie. Anyways, but yes, what was there was another question that came up. And
someone said to lighten the mood, and I can't see it right now, about Stu.
Oh, is Stu dead or alive? Is he coming back? I actually recently saw a really interesting breakdown that I wanted to talk to Crystal about. So I think when Crystal gets back, we're going to have to discuss it also. But
the big Scream experts, I am not so much.
I saw a breakdown of the timing in Scream 6 from when they're in the apartment with, spoiler alert, 2 of the killers, and one of them is calling them. They're on the phone with and the timing from when they leave that apartment and how quickly they get attacked by Ghostface. It's hard for those 2 people who are supposedly in the apartment still with everybody else to be one of the killers, while the other guy's at the crime scene clear across town. So there's a possibility that they were leaving that in there as a little bit of a 4th killer situation for the next film. And that's possible. This is kind of what happened with Scream 1 and the bathroom scene where Stu was with Tatum and Billy was right outside the bathroom, so it couldn't have been him. So that was supposedly Roman in Scream 3 later, and they kind of used that. There is that. I think that sometimes they just make continuity errors, and then those are opportunities that they can use or not. Do I think Stu's alive? No. I think the whole point of them dropping the TV on Ethan at the end of Scream 6 was to make a nod towards him not being alive.
So I'm not as well versed in Scream, so all I've seen them all, but it's one of my weaknesses there. So what I am gonna say is I am excited to see Matthew Lillard in Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm very excited for that.
I also would say that he's probably not going to come back to the franchise unless Neve Campbell comes back as well. And if they're not going to pay her, I respect that. And with the success of Scream 6 without her, there's a possibility that they just will stand their ground on that, unfortunately. That's how it works in capitalism. Yes, he was very vocal about her not getting paid. Let's see. Oh, who is the sexiest Universal monster? Creature from the Black Lagoon. Hobby.
So I cheat and I say it's me,
Dr. Pretorius.
Because it's Dr. Pretorius, who is me, and I am him. He is me. We are the same person. Dr. Pretorius from Bride of Frankenstein, 100%. I know he's not a monster. He's misunderstood. He likes to bring out the genius in the man he loves.
Oh, Popper. Can we relax?
Oh, I thought I muted it.
Paul, are you trying to ask us a question? Because I see you saying, we'll try this again.
I see you saying TCM, Turner Classic Movies, is awesome if that's what it stands for. Hi, Fender.
I think it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, both rock, by the way. Both rock.
You're so funny.
Let me get a little old-timey on you here. My bones crack. I don't know why
Let's
Ted
see.
Turner decided to colorize movies. Like, what was that idea?
Turner
I don't
Chainsaw
know.
Massacre. Texas Classic Massacre.
Yeah, but is it colorized for no reason? That's the real question.
If I were going to get into Universal Monsters, I love how The Shape of Water and Invisible Man did more than Dracula Untold, and the Mummy and Tom Cruise movies were possibly half the budget with the classic monsters. What? I might have read that too fast. I really liked Invisible Man, and I loved The Shape of Water, which I feel like Guillermo del Toro is like, I know what you guys were all thinking when you watched The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So now I'm just going to give it to you.
We talked about it in our Universal Monsters episode.
We do. It was all meant to be very sexy. So I'm just living my truth here. Okay.
Guillermo del Toro is a romantic, and I appreciate that about him. I appreciate it. So
it was freaking boss.
So here's a question that kind of relates
totally
to Gilman a little bit. Is what fiction do you read or write on AO3? Justine?
I do not write any fiction on AO3. I'm not even on AO3. I don't have anything to do with it, but I read a lot of stuff that's very similar in tone, probably. And I don't write anything like that, though. What I write is I'm writing a short film, and it's a cosmic horror, so it's not. I don't write typically the stuff that I read. I don't even read the stuff that I watch. So, like, I don't know. I don't know any of you. I know you are. Yeah.
I have not written anything on AO3 in the last over 10 years. And I don't think I wrote it. I can't even remember. I think I wrote it on what was called Greatest Journal, which is completely erased. It was like Live Journal, but slightly different. Thank God it was erased. Some things are better not remembered.
So the internet is not forever.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure somewhere, somehow, always. But again, what I read on AO3 is between me and my favorite authors who who have become friends with in Discord. So, I will let you know from my past, my teenage past, that if you've written a slash fic about Jesse and James from Pokemon, know that I have read it. Know that I have read it. I just want everyone to I can reveal.
Spooky Robin's asking what AO3 is. It's a fanfic website. It's basically where fandoms go and write fiction based off of the characters in other fandoms or fiction that they all together love. And it's typically a little schmutty.
Not always, but
not always.
Pretty much.
But sometimes it's like alternate endings that people wish something would end in a different way, or back lore about people or characters. That's what AO3 is.
It stands for Archive of Our Own. It's like Wattpad, or there used to be stuff on Pinterest too. Not Pinterest. DeviantArt.
And Reddit.
Oh yeah, and Tumblr too. So AO3 is like just specifically for fan fiction, and sometimes it is like I found one that was weird, but I don't think I want to reveal it.
Hermione is a really popular one. That is the idea of Hermione Granger and Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy like being together. So, and then if you're into like shows like Supernatural, there's a ton of fanfic on the Supernatural characters.
I know Riddlebat is a thing. It's not what I read. I wouldn't be ashamed to say so, but Riddlebat, ever since the last Batman movie came out, Riddlebat is a thing, which is shipping Batman and the Riddler from the most current film that Justine loves. Yes.
I friggin' love the Batman. I do. Okay. Have you ever been to
stabbing myself with my own shoes because they have spikes on them? I'm taking them off.
Have you ever
Sorry.
been to horror cons and or cons in general? I have never been to any cons. I want to go to Crypticon. I've never been to any. Uh, I've been to like Ren fairs. I don't know if that counts. Renaissance fairs.
I think it counts in its
They're in
own
the
right.
same vein, I think. And there's a lot of crossover. But no, I have not. I have not been into any of those. I go to festival stuff. Like I'm a big food festival girly. Like you're not gonna catch me like out wanting to buy a bunch of stuff unless I'm eating it. I was about to be really gross.
Not really gross, just as
Just
like we're all adults. No, you also go to Krampusnacht
oh
sometimes.
yeah, Krampusnacht. I do like Krampusnacht during, the Christmas time. Go see the Krampus fair. Um, that's the kind of stuff I go to. It's more like local festival stuff than it is mostly food festivals though, like Taste of Tacoma, Bite of Seattle. There's this ice cream one coming up in Seattle that I'm kind of like,
Ooh,
sounds like it's right up my alley. Like, so
so
yeah, nice catch.
I've
Thank you.
uh
Yeah.
I've only been to one horror convention, and I mentioned horror whenever I say horror convention. It's like this one I went to in 2010. And it was one that isn't. It was a smaller one, but it wasn't small. It was called Rock and Shock. It doesn't exist anymore since the pandemic. Where there was a
Mhm.
horror convention with the usual actors, some direct creators, Artist Alley, and so that kind of general stuff you think of when you think of conventions, fan conventions.
Mhm.
And then there would be a concert, and so I got to see. That's where I saw Rob Zombie perform for the first time. Skinny
Mhm.
Puppy, uh, Murder Dolls, and they sucked. Uh, Guar. So like it was like a big like lineup of bands that you could go to. I met Charles Band at his booth, and he was super nice.
Aw.
So yeah, he was super nice. Oh my, he gave me and my fiance at the time, who would later become my wife, and then later my ex-wife. Not that you need to know that, but
The
a
evolution.
lot of the
Like
evolution, the lore. He just like signed a bunch of movies and just gave it to us for free. But he was doing that with everybody. It wasn't like
Yeah.
specific to us. He's just like a really nice guy. I've gone to a lot of and some of our folks in here know this about me already. I've gone to quite a few, most of the live Mystery Science Theater 3000 tours. Mostly the ones that when they showed up in Boston, but I did go to Minnesota because I'd never been to Minneapolis. Like, I'm like, is
Mhm.
it a destination city? Not necessarily, but it was a very fun trip. So I went to Austin to see folks talk about Paul Newman, and that was really fun. So I go to things like that, and I'm always jealous when I hear film festival stuff, but I haven't
I
dipped
would
myself
love
in.
to go to a film festival.
Like
That
there
would
was
be right
one
up my alley for
Yeah, there
sure.
was one in Austin just recently, and there was one in, I can't remember the name of the city because it was one I didn't recognize, but in Canada recently. And so I would love to go to one of the, not like tiny, but not like Cannes, or
Mhm.
but something like smaller, like Fantastic Fest or something. I would love to go to that, but I usually see it while it's happening. I'm like, well, it's too late to get on a plane and show up for one day.
I
I could be
never
more
think
attuned.
about that stuff. Yeah, it's like stuff that you have to plan like a year out sometimes. And like I have a lot of mutuals that were just at Texas Frightmare and I'm seeing all their pictures and videos and I'm like, "Man, that looks so fun." And I want to do that. And I think this year, towards the end of this year, I'm going to really start planning next year to try to hit some of those cons and be more available for them. But it's hard because this isn't a full-time gig. Like I have to work full time. I have a kid, I have a house. It just gets hard to get out and do that stuff and plan the money around it. But
But like
Crypticon, I need to just go to it because it happens every May and I always forget. Like always.
I'd love to see Doug Jones. He seems like such a sweet
I would
human being.
love to see Doug Jones, yeah. There
Uh,
was a lot of good people at Crypticon this year, it looked like, too, and I was surprised because I don't remember seeing them advertised as going, and then a lot of really cool people went to Frightmare, of course. Texas Frightmare seems to be a pretty big one. That's probably a good one to hit up.
I thing is that usually even a weekend pass to that kind of, whether it's a convention or a film festival, isn't a lot of money. It's the traveling that's a lot of money. Like, how much per movie did I go see to go see the Ethan
I'll
Hawke talk
spend
about
so
Paul
much
Newman? Was
money
like
on tchotchkes,
13
like
bucks. But so it's like the traveling to Austin part, so it's like, and I have the money, but it's more about the
yeah,
time more than the money. But
yeah.
because there are things that are like, obviously San Diego Comic-Con, the big one, but I've never been there. But people say it's very commercial. Maybe that's not for me, and that's expensive to get to
Mhm.
and go into.
And
But
stay in San
mhm.
Diego. Yikes.
Like the biggest one that is more general, that's as a convention that I'd be interested in going on, would be Dragon Con in Atlanta. But I haven't gone.
Emerald
So
City Comic-Con is getting bigger,
mm.
and that's here in Seattle. That one's definitely
There's one
growing.
in Rhode Island that's like less than 2 hours away from me, and I haven't just like, I just got to get my act together. That's all.
So we got what's the sleaziest horror films you've seen that aren't Friday the 13th Part 5? Well, Piranha 3D, obviously. Like, we talked a little bit about zombie strippers earlier. But
Uh,
sleazy, I don't know. Piranha 3D, I think, is sleazy, but that's kind of the joke, right?
I
Um,
have seen so much
so many sleazy ones.
sleaze.
Yeah. There's I feel like
Uh,
horror and sleaze are just like bedfellows. Like
Look, I am a Full Moon Features fan. One of them, also directed by God, what Dakota, who does the 1313 films, but it's not a 1313 movie. It's Nightmare
keeping it sleazy.
Sisters. There's quite a long scene of the three women having a bath together.
Mm.
Very, very long, very, very sleazy. Or maybe it's tastefully done. Maybe it's tastefully done.
Hey,
I'm not saying
Piranha
either
3D is
way.
tastefully done. They have the operatic
Tasteful booby
classical music
spousing. It was
while they're like
tasteful.
swimming under the water like mermaids. And they're
I still need to see that.
tasteful.
I do. It's coming up soon for me. My experience with Piranha 3D.
Look,
And another one I can
it's
think
a good
of, which
time.
is also a Dakota film. I think Dakota has a theme running. Is is my favorite Dakota film that I could is Sorority Babes at the Slime Bolorama. They don't have as long of a shower bathing scene, but for
Mhm.
when there are guys who are like loser frat guys, typical 80s, spying on girls in a sorority, and for some reason the way to get in the sorority is to be like paddled on the fanny by the sorority sisters, and it's quite long. It's quite long. It's quite long. So, but there are no rape jokes, so that's a bone. Like Revenge of the Nerds,
Plus,
which is not plus. New York River is pretty sleazy. I could say Nymphomaniac, but which I just recently rewatched.
I
I
don't
haven't
think
finished.
it's sleazy as much as
No,
like
like
it's
it's pretty perfunctory. I think that his point is to make it very neutral. The sex scenes, even though a lot of them are real, it's not.
they're
I don't
very I
feel.
mean, yeah, they're real. I was about to say they're very real. Like I feel like Nymphomaniac is actually it's a really interesting film. If
It's Lars
I
von
don't hate it.
Trier.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I actually
I
really
don't love
like
it, but I don't
them.
hate it.
I like what I like what he did with that film because it felt very real. I don't know how to explain that. Like, I mean, I know the sex scenes are real because he did. He hired porn stars to actually film those sex scenes, and they are real sex scenes. And it's not porn, I guess. But
It doesn't
I
feel like it, even
it
though
doesn't
you could
feel like it
safely
because it
feel like
feels
it.
very real. Like, it doesn't feel performative in any way. Like, the sex
It's
scenes
not
do not
shocking.
feel it has those awkward moments that real sex has. It has the weird, like, real life situations and mental battles you have with yourself and like shame and all of it's just very grounded, I think, and it's very interesting to watch. I've only watched it twice. I think it's one of those films that deserves a couple watches to really like understand and get the feel for, and really watch. But it's not gratuitous sex. I don't know how to explain that. It doesn't feel
It's
gratuitous.
very it like if we described it to you, it would very much sound gratuitous, but
But
it's
it's
not.
the plot, so it can't be gratuitous.
And it's got Papa Star.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
and when the
guess Head and Lauder, but that's not sleazy enough. It's like usually when I think is sleazy, I think more of the gratuitous, long nude
totally,
scenes. Like that's what
totally.
I think of anyway. And it's
Boobs and
usually
blood, right? Boobs and blood.
blood, breasts, and beasts.
Uh,
Three
but
B's.
one bad one, I can tell you one that I really freaking hate because it's sleazy, like actually sleazy, was Shark Exorcist.
I have not seen Shark. Like
That
this is our
movie
Shark
was
episode.
so bad, and talk about sleazy. Like, it felt like they made that movie just to take advantage of girls who wanted to be in a movie. Like,
Gross.
it was so sleazy. Like, ugh, like secondhand cringe watching that film. Me and Crystal both were like, "Ew, this movie is so gross." So,
It's no
like,
Sharks of the
actually sleazy,
Corn.
not like he sleazy. This is kind of fun though. Like Piranha 3D, fantastic. Shark Exorcist. Like,
I have not seen Shark Exorcist, but everyone that's of our little circle of folks that watch that type of films, everyone pretty much has not had fun with that movie. I've never heard
yeah.
someone say it's good or neutral
And if
about
you
it.
made that movie and you know who made that movie, look, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Shark Tsunami took advantage of sharks just wanting to surf. Okay, is Shark Tsunami a real movie? Because I've seen Zombie Tsunami. I didn't know
I
there was a
think it
Shark
is.
Tsunami.
Which is kind of
Ugh.
funny because Sharknado, it's not a
Oh yeah,
tornado. It's more of like a monsoon. I don't know.
that's actually a really good one. Hollow Man is pretty sleazy. I feel like
With
there's
Kevin
but
Bacon?
yeah, it's got the intent that's the intention though. It's supposed to be sleazy. He's
I've
supposed to be
seen
doing
it, but I
something
don't remember it
sleazy.
being sleazy.
He's intentionally
Is
crossing a line,
is
that's
he
like the
peeping on
point.
people?
Yeah, oh, like, and touching,
Oh,
and
I don't remember that at all. It's
he's
been a long time
rapey.
since I've seen it.
I'm pretty sure he R's a girl in that one. But
Oof.
the point is he is intentionally crossing a line. That sleaze is intentional, and you're meant to not feel good about what he's doing. And then there's movies that are gratuitous but fun, and the sleaze is lighthearted and silly, and like the intention is for it to be silly and lighthearted, and
Like
that would
Sorority
be like
Babes and
Piranha
Slime Bowl
3D and
Mama.
Sorority Babes, zombie strippers, like
It's pretty fun. I don't
and then
understand why
there's
zombies had super strength, but I'll go with it.
sleaze that becomes sleaze over time when you grow and look at it again with a new lens. Like, so, and those films sometimes are a little. I watched, what was it? I think it was Basic Instinct. I was on like this phase where I was watching Basic Instinct, Wild Things, and a few others that are kind of in the same vein. And I rewatched them and I was like, ooh, ooh. Like, I don't remember that part. Yikes. That's not very good.
Vomit Girl Gore
Um,
Dolls is very sleazy. I do not recommend it at all. I just don't. I just can't. Here's a question.
yeah.
You can have 6 famous people over to dinner. Who would you invite?
6? That's tough. I feel like I gotta throw in some like ones that I
We can answer
need
it
like
later.
comic relief for to like ease me up a little bit, because if I have 6 people that I like really look up to and want to ask questions and they're all in the same room at the same time, I might just die. Like, for sure Mike Flanagan and his wife Kate Siegel. So both. So that's 2. Um was it Dead or Alive? Is that what it said? Or Alive?
It did not say either, so I
I'm gonna
assume
go with Alive.
I'm going to go with dead or alive, just so you know.
Just to restrict it just a tad.
I'm not restricting. I know who I want.
Optimisty, if you have that many people over, you do charcuterie. It's very easy. People love to just nibble on it all night.
Or cater.
And plus, you can eat it for like a week because it's like goes right into the fridge and it's stays good forever because it's cured. So, like, charcuterie. That's the answer. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So Mike Flanagan, Kate Siegel. I probably would want somebody funny yet poignant of some sort. I think Bo Burnham would be really interesting at a table. I know.
He's not. I know.
I don't think he's a bad dude either, but I think he would be interesting at a dinner table. I think he is witty in conversation, and I've seen him do like interviews, like panel interviews with people, and be at tables with multiple people, and he's interesting to listen to. So I would like to have him at the table because I think he would also lighten things up a little bit for me, make me feel a little comfortable. Gina Davis. I would love to have Gina Davis there. And I think Gina Davis and Bo Burnham sitting next to each other would be hilarious. Two more, man. I think I would like man, this is tough. Eli Roth. Eli Roth.
Oh,
I don't know why. I freaking love hearing him talk about movies.
He's very
the opposite is Tarantino. I fucking hate listening to Tarantino.
I
love listening
to
Eli Roth. Eli Roth would be a good one, I think. And I'm not even like the biggest fan of his films. I like quite a few of them. I don't hate them.
He knows a lot.
They're not my go-to. But he's such an
it.
interesting guy, like just generally. And I swear to God, he was in that. Did I share it with the Discord or just you guys?
No, the Discord.
I swear that was him. Wasn't that him in that?
I don't know.
Marvelous Miss Maisel? I swear. They were talking about John Waters' cameo, but like, I'm like, but wait, isn't that Eli Roth? Like, right like next to him? I don't know. Anyways, so Eli Roth and, oh man, one more. I feel like I want another woman at the table, so Karen Kusama would be a really good one.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to get her thoughts on filmmaking or Diablo Cody.
Yeah, sounds good.
What are those two? Yeah.
You can say both. We can cheat. 7. Bring them both.
Okay, so Mike Flanagan and Kate count as one. They're a couple, so.
They complement each other. So for some reason, the first person that came to mind is slightly, if not, depending on, it's kind of controversial. So I'll save them for last. So I want everyone to have a good time. I want people to feel like they don't have to be on, like they don't have to perform or be a certain personality. They can come, eat, drink, and just chill and do whatever they want to do, right? Then it feels so hard. Sister Rosetta Thorpe, and she doesn't have to play guitar with me, but it would be cool. But she doesn't have to. She could just chill.
Just a few cocktails later, you guys are jamming.
Yeah, well, like it'd be more like I'm like admiring how she's affected music forever, and I'm just like holding my guitar, and I'm like, hi.
I'm just happy to be here.
I'm just happy to be here and experience your genius. Jesus, he seems pretty chill. From what people say. You can't bring his dad though, but Jesus can come. If his dad exists, I don't know. But Jesus, if he exists in the way people talk about him, hey, I'm agnostic, but if he was just whether he was religious,
just to ask him some questions, right? Just to clear some things up.
No, everyone is just coming to chill. Everyone is just coming to.
I feel like
I am getting to that. The mayor. I am getting to that. So, I think it's rude to invite multiple people I'm attracted to. In a way where I'm actually
Jesus, exactly. What the fuck, Jesus?
Excuse me, this is my dinner party.
It is her dinner party. Whatever. I feel like he's just gonna take over the conversation. That's not gonna be fun for you guys.
Well,
He does
then
it at
he can
every
leave.
dinner
Okay,
party.
we don't.
Like, it's always about him. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, maybe it takes the heat off of me then.
Oh, perfect.
So,
Yeah.
so I have Sister Rosetta.
You won't run out of wine.
Yeah, he's got a full supply. We've got Jesus, and the mayor got ahead of me. So I feel like it's rude for me to invite multiple people that I am attracted to and have intentions.
We said the same thing at the same time. That's hilarious.
So obviously Vincent Price, and hopefully I'm sitting on his lap the whole time. And in a slightly, it's not appropriate in front of other people, but it's not like.
Is it ever appropriate to sit on
No.
someone's lap? Unless you're a child in Santa Claus, and even then I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too. No, but this is like, so this is complete fantasy. So he's completely consensual to this, and we're just chilling and hanging, right? Of course.
Totes.
Like, he was a great appreciator of art and had a lot of knowledge of art and really supported different communities, especially the indigenous communities, with art. And he loved food, big foodie. Wrote 2 cooking books. I think he'd be fun, and I think he's very attractive, and I'm in love with him.
I'd be afraid to meet people from a different time.
He's not from that much of a different time. He died in 1993.
Yeah.
You didn't say that about Jesus? Like Vincent Price? Like, that's too
I thought I had much more of a visceral reaction to Jesus, Vic. I was just like, eh. Like, you're gonna get smited at the dinner table. You can't invite me and Jesus at the same dinner party. So
you don't know him yet. Maybe he'd give him a chance.
Oh, I would totally give him a chance.
We're just hanging. You know, you don't have to listen to him talk.
My dear. Oh, he would call you my dear all night. That's so nice.
Oh, that is so nice. Why couldn't it just be a dinner for 2, just between me and Vincent Price? But since I have intense towards Vincent Price, I can't invite other people I'm attracted to. So if other people,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's totally cool. I can't. If I invite Vincent Price, I cannot invite Matt Berry or Ethan Hawke. Sorry.
Or Crispin Glover. Or Matthew Modine.
Yeah. Or Brett Spiner. But I don't have much intention towards. It's whatever. Vincent Price. Okay. So who do I have? Jesus. I have Sister Rosetta Thorpe. I have Vincent Price.
You got 3 more.
Okay, so the unsinkable Molly Brown. I mean, she survived the Titanic, so she's good in a bad situation, and she seems really fun, especially when she drinks. So the unsinkable Molly Brown, and she'd probably be really good in a fight. Like, if a fight breaks out, she's the gal you want by your side, because I don't want Vincent to be harmed, and I don't want her to
bail you out of jail.
But she can handle.
She definitely would bail you out of jail.
Oh, she totally bail you out of jail. She's like, she would be freaking awesome. And then I have one more.
What an eclectic group, Emma.
I know, right? Should I invite somebody modern? I guess I'd have to invite David Bowie, but he'd also, as a couple, because he was very private and he didn't want to have to be on all the time, and I want everybody to be chill. So he counts with Iman, his wife. So if he just wants to talk to his wife and just be on their own, and then they can leave.
Let's just say they all get +1s, all right?
Yeah, they get +1, so they can leave early and they have someone to talk to and feel more relaxed. And then my last one, who was the first person I thought of? I don't know why. Rasputin. I just want to know what that. I don't know why.
I want to come to this dinner so bad now, just so you can seat Jesus next to Rasputin, and then on the other side of Rasputin, unsinkable Molly. Please just put them all right next to each other.
Come on, this is an interesting night.
I mean, I got some questions for him too.
The bad stuff that Rasputin has done. But I think I want to know that vibe.
I want to pick his brain too. Like, how do I get to be a freaking zealot like you?
And he was a big
Like,
drinker, and big Jesus fan, so that works. Big drinker, big Jesus fan, big addict of sexa, which I'm not doing that, but other people can if they are welcome. I just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I invited mostly a bunch of hippies.
I
I'm
feel like
all
you
down.
invited a whole bunch of we don't know because nobody truly knows some of these people.
There's
Like,
yeah. There's a lot of myths about Rasputin in particular. Which is funny because was such a unique individual, and I don't mean that good and bad, just like neutrally, a specific person in history. You don't need to make shit up, like. So yeah, so that's 6, right?
yeah.
David Bowie, Sister Rosetta Thorpe, Unsinkable Ground, Jesus, Vincent Price, My Love, and Rasputin.
Mm-hmm. What a group. So I didn't go with any of dead people. So
Is there anybody alive on my list?
no.
Is there anybody? No.
No. You
Everyone's
picked
dead.
all dead people. Like,
I didn't mean
I
that.
picked all live people. She picked all dead people. What do you do? Like,
I guess I should have invited.
We're gonna have a seance at Emma's with my dinner party.
I feel like Rasputin's the type of party guest that, like, even after everyone else has left and things are being put away, and you're like,
shots?
Going to bed.
Who wants the shots?
Who wants to do some shots with me? Let me tell you the story. Let me tell you the story was when I was a young boy in Siberia. Like, he's the guest that never leaves, ever. Like, he just, like, even if he's just passed out, but he's like,
you wake up and he's like hugging your like fiddly fig plant in the corner.
David Bowie and Iman probably left early, which I totally respect, but I had to invite them, so. Yeah, Optimisty agrees. Rasputin's so not going home on time. He might be like, am I crazy, or am I kind of living here?
Am I crazy? Are we having such a good time? Like,
Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. Yeah. He's like, you know that song that's about me? Let's try the
That's about me. Let's play that song. Jesus is like, I got a lot of songs about me.
Yeah, like, excuse me. The reason you got popular and called, like, was it the Dark Mad Monk is you were really into me. You were into me. Like, I made you, no offense, but like the Regina's like being like, Jesus is like being the Regina George of the group to Rasputin. Like, excuse me, you were, or the main Heather from Heathers. You were nothing before me, Rasputin. That's how I see it. Sorry. I don't know why he became the first thing. I'm like immediately Rasputin.
That is hilarious. I like that him and Jesus are eating hors d'oeuvres together.
Okay, so someone said for the podcast, so question for us all, which I generally, when you guys ask a question, unless it's something very, very, very specific, I'm going to assume it's for all of us, which is cool. So the podcast, for the podcast, best pickup line you've ever heard and worst you've ever heard.
I don't remember any pickup lines off the top of my head, to be honest.
So generally, because I don't think people, I don't really go out to places where they have pickup lines. I do have pickup lines, like it's something they have at a place. But usually when someone uses a pickup line, it's usually like them saying an obviously corny one, but they're saying like, isn't it corny that I'm saying this? Like, what's your sign? It's like, are you hurt? Did it hurt? And you're like, what? Like when you fell from heaven? But they're like saying it in a jokey way, but that's been overdone. So I can't remember one that's in particularly bad or good, but there is one that sticks in my mind, and I have heard it other places, but the guy was dead serious when he said this to me, and I don't know why it sticks with me. Okay, we did not go further in any conversation after this, but it was like
So it wasn't successful, but it stuck with her.
It stuck with me, so it's successful in a certain way. Can't hardly remember what the person looks like, but it's like, okay, so I don't need to ask for help at Home Depot. I just know where everything is.
That's good. That's a good one.
So,
That would work on me if someone said that to me. I love a handy guy.
And he was leaning on
But
something in my memory. Maybe I've like built it up in my mind. It was quite a while ago. Pretty sure he was kind of leaning on the wall. I just know where everything is.
I honestly like pickup lines just do not work on me, but that one would because that's giving me some insight into the person a little bit more, and it would make me giggle because I wouldn't have heard that. But pickup lines generally don't really work on me. What works on me is when people plan a date and they don't ask me to plan it for them. Like if you ask me out on a date and I say yes, and I typically will say yes unless there's a red flag. I'm not opposed to dating people, but if
I
there's a
am.
red flag, I'll be
You.
like, I'm busy, or I'll just unmatch them if it's on Tinder. But the good pickup lines I've gotten are generally just like, you are so cool. And like they'll talk about something I'm interested in that is obvious. You really like horror movies? What's your favorite scary movie? That one comes up the
What's your
most. What's your
favorite
favorite scary
scary
movie?
movie?
And if they're not asking it, I'm typically asking it because I will know if I'm going to talk to somebody based off of that response. If they're like, I don't really like scary movies, I'm not going to be as interested, to be honest. I've talked about this before. Look, it's a real big part of me. If you're not even interested in horror movies, it's going to be a little bit of a no-go for me. I might still feel you out for a little while, but that's going to be it's a yellow flag. It's caution. Um, but when they plan a good date and they're like, hey, I'd love to take you out to dinner to do this. I'd like to take you. When are you available next? If the only question for me is when I'm available and they plan a date completely without asking me anything else, sold. Love that. I love that. Don't ask me what my favorite food is. Don't make me do all the fucking work for you. Like, if you want to ask me out on a date, plan the date. Plan it. Just
I generally am a long relationship gal. I don't date a lot because I love being alone, like a lot. And not because I
yeah.
don't like other people. I just like a lot of alone time.
It's really easy for me to be alone, but I don't like to be alone.
I love it.
Mm.
Not that I'm like so special. You have to be like worth my time, but you do. Not because I'm special, just because I like being alone a lot. But I've been told by different people that I'm really oblivious. Because a lot of the time, most of the time, if someone's talking to me, I usually don't have that default. They're like, maybe they're into me. I usually just think they're being nice. And people are like, they were totally into you. I'm like, oh, I just thought they were being nice. So maybe I've heard more pickup lines and just don't even realize it because apparently I'm
Yeah,
pretty
that's
oblivious
also
to it.
very possible because I'm the same way actually. I'm really oblivious when someone's checking me out or is like into me. I found this out like actually recently because I went out with Mark and Mark was like all of a sudden he was like behind me but like real close and like giving me kisses and stuff on the head and the neck and like the shoulder and he wasn't doing that the last place we were at. Like it was just very sudden change. And I was like, oh, thank you. Why are you doing this? Like, what happened? Did somebody look at my butt? And he's like, yes, a bunch of people. Like,
Well, you
and I
guys are
thought that
like,
was so cute. But like, I
it
didn't
is.
even notice. I didn't notice, not at all. Like, I
Well,
wasn't
Cancers and
completely
Scorpios are
oblivious.
supposed to match up very well. I think that's one of the ones that's like one of the best matches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know who Aquarius's best match usually is?
Taurus?
No, not at
I
all.
don't
Not
know.
supposed to work out at all. Other Aquariuses.
Ew.
I know. I'm sorry. I can't help who I am. My ex-wife was an Aquarius. I can't help it. Okay, I can't. I'm not looking for that. I actually don't. I have fun with star signs, but it doesn't like affect my life and how I interact with people.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't actually change anything. It's nice to look at after the fact, like when I've already made up my mind about somebody and like whether I like them or not. It's fun to talk about how cute it is that we're like soulmates according to the stars. That's
The
adorable.
stars. Mm-hmm.
Or we're enemies to lovers according to the stars, which is also fun. So
I
even
love
if it's bad news,
AO3
it's still
slash
kind of fun.
for AO3. I love enemies to lovers stories. I don't like it in
Me
my
too.
life,
That's
but I
my
like
favorite
reading it.
romance. I
I like
also love
reading
when
it.
the villain gets the girl. Go figure. Like we all knew that about me,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. I can't help it.
Can't help it. So that's it. I don't have good pickup lines, but that does work on me. If you say, "Hey, when are you available? I'd like to take you out." And you plan everything after the fact and you don't keep asking me questions to help you with your planning, at that point you probably already know enough about me to make for a good first date. And generally, you're not going to go wrong with generic first dates. You're just not. But if you make me plan it for you and pick like the bar or the restaurant or the type of food or whether it is food, whether we're going on a walk, if you make me go through the slew of possibilities with you, then I think that you're just not trying and you just don't want to impress me with what you want to do with me. Like you aren't showing me anything about you. You're just showing me more of me.
You want effort, so put it some effort in, some effort.
I was on Team Sawyer for Lost. Sawyer was
Oh
so
my god, that
good.
makes so much sense. I hardly remember a lot of Lost. I have seen the whole thing. I liked the
Thanks
guy
for the
that
subscription.
who was part of the others. Thank you. Who was
DC Carter.
Thank you, DC
DC
Carter.
Carter. We love you.
I liked the guy that was the head of the others, who was like a real weenie, but I didn't have a crush on him. I just thought he was an interesting character. And I liked
I
the girl
hated that guy.
I liked that guy. That was interesting. He wasn't attractive. That's not.
No, I hated him. I was so
I
excited when
don't.
he was going to get
All
off.
I remember about Sawyer is his hair
And his
and
accent. And how he always gave her cute
was
pet
it
names.
Southern?
Yeah. He was like
But it was
super
him and
southern.
another guy for her, and I remember her name was
Jack.
Kate.
Yep. And it was Jack and
Kate was
Sawyer.
Kate
Jack
was
the
hot.
doctor. Kate was hot. She
Did
still is hot.
Jack
Evangeline
does?
Lilly.
Oh, I haven't. I don't register that.
She's
That's
in
fine.
the she's the Wasp in the Marvel movies.
I have not seen that. I didn't mean to say it. I have not seen that, but
Marvel.
unless you put somebody I think is hot in it, then I'm totally into it. I am flawed. Although most of the time, I will say I never let my personal desires get in the way of my aesthetic judgment, like my love Winslow Leach from Phantom of the Paradise. But what was the question again?
I don't know. Was I Team Sawyer? That was the question that they asked in the chat. But you had a question that you were going to ask, right?
Oh yeah. And this is all that questions I'm asking are, which I remember I have one on Instagram. But most of them are from my.
Oh, you told me to remind you to ask.
You know what? Let's go to
that was
that
on your
one.
Insta. Was that
Let
it?
me go to that since I'm thinking about it.
Was that what I was supposed to remind you?
Yes.
Okay.
So since I'm thinking about it now,
I forgot.
Oh my god,
I
who
didn't.
asked it? Damn it. Who asked the question?
Optimisty. I'm just kidding.
It wasn't Optimisty.
That was the joke, right? Optimisty asked you.
Oh yeah, because the Stitch thing. Okay. I don't know how I didn't remember this question, but Craig General asked us, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?"
I wish. I love the idea of believing in something like that, but there's just no way without any evidence that there wouldn't be anything unless they had the exact same bone structure as we did. And people just mistaken it for human bones. So it'd be very difficult for something to exist in America or in any populated area with woods and have something out there in the woods exist unless it was somewhere like the Amazon where like there's so much uncharted territory. Pretty much most of it around here has been charted. I mean, the gold rush did that for us a lot in this area, and that's where it supposedly exists, right? Um, I just don't see it happening without some sort of evidence of a creature like that, unless someone just dismissed the evidence as something else and it wasn't ever cataloged by an expert or something. I guess that's possible, but it's just not likely. It's just not likely. Humanoid creatures would be reported. So that sucks though, because it's my favorite
Probably
cryptid.
not. Probably not. But Willow Creek is a good film. That's a Bigfooty type film. And
Did
then
you,
what's the
Johnny? Johnny Zuko says he made a documentary about Bigfoot and he caught him on film. Well, I would
Oh,
love to see it.
we'll put it in our Discord.
Yes. I love Bigfoot stuff. Like I live in Washington. We're all about Bigfoot up here. I wish it was real. I wish my stupid logic brain could just believe. Maybe in another dimension. Maybe there's another
I mean,
dimension
maybe. I said
that
probably not, but I
glimpsed
can't be sure.
that glimpsed into ours and we thought we saw Bigfoot because we had a little insight into another dimension where he does exist. That I think would be more possible than him actually existing in this plane of existence.
But what if it's Mrs. Bigfoot? Excuse me, Justine.
Or that.
I'm just being a jerk. I'm sorry.
Or that. Either or. Mr. or Mrs. Bigfoot. Maybe it's a they, them Bigfoot. I don't know. Maybe we don't have to gender it.
Maybe, but probably not is my answer with Bigfoot. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like aliens.
Have you ever walked out on a movie?
Yep. No. I've stopped a movie, like stopped watching a movie, but I've never walked out of the movie theater. Oh, except for recently, actually. I just walked out of The Little Mermaid because of my daughter, but it's not because I wanted to walk out of the movie. It's because she got bored and wanted to leave, and she's 5. So
I want to see it. I want to see it.
But I've never intentionally, like, because the movie was so bad, I just was like, forget this, and like left. I've never done that. I've wanted to. When I saw Seventh Son in theater, I was like, this movie is so bad. And I'm so disappointed that I just want to leave and I hate this. But I stuck it out and watched it all. Luckily, it was pretty, I guess. Like the costuming was cool. Julianne Moore looked cool.
I like Julianne Moore.
The movie overall, bleh. So bad.
I've never walked out of a theater. So I've never done that. I can't remember any specific movie, to be honest. I know there's probably been films. There's been films where I'm watching it and then I get interrupted, like I have to go to work or pot, and then I just don't get back to it because I'm like, I don't really need to see the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen super often. I usually like to. I like to finish a film even if it's not very good. I mean, I watched the 13 films all the way through. But I can't think of anything specific, to be honest. I'm sure
I am notorious for turning off a film that's just not got me. I think I did it 5 times this week, actually, where I started a movie and like nothing was catching me, and I just was like, I'd rather watch this, and then I changed it and watched something else. I did that quite often. Yeah. If I'm just not into it and I'm like busy on my phone, why even bother? So I change it.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. So let's see. So I'm just gonna go through all the news I have is fairly quick. So with the popularity of certain films, it happens in every decade at all times. There are films that maybe are looking for a buck or maybe just having their own fun that copy it. And some of them are gems and fun, and some of them are not. But there is a film coming out called Cocaine Crabs from Outer Space. Get pinched to death by no budget creature feature this summer. And so it's like a very low budget film, Cocaine Crabs. Then it does mention Cocaine Bear from the popular. It's what it called a mockbuster, but it is coming from. It's not coming from Asylum though. It's coming from something called a production company called SRS Films. And there is a trailer out, so you can look for Cocaine Crabs from Outer Space. And then let me do one more real quick.
I
I have
probably will
more.
not watch that, but if you
I
guys
probably
do
will.
watch it, tell me how it is. 'Cause
Um,
those are one of those. That's the type of movie that I would just turn off and move on. Go watch Piranha
so
3D.
there's gonna be a spin-off of Insidious called An Insidious Tale.
Oh,
An Insidious Tale starring Mandy Moore and Kumail Najari. That sounds pretty
oh,
interesting.
that
I'm
sounds
interested.
very interesting. I would love to see him in horror.
Yeah,
I think the most serious thing I've seen him in, he was still funny, and that was The Eternals, or the movie he made himself, right? With what is it called?
the White
The one that
Castle
was
one.
about n
Oh, the one
no.
about his relationship. I can't remember.
Yeah,
That they made it
yeah,
together. He made
yeah.
it with his wife, and
Him and
it's
his wife, yeah.
the Big Sick. I think is what
The
it's
Big
called.
Sick, yeah.
Mhm.
That's what like, probably the most serious, and he's still just a funny guy, like, he's a funny guy. So I'm curious to see how he'll do in something as serious as Insidious. Mandy Moore's great. I That sounds like a great idea, a great
I
production.
love
I
it.
would
I
probably
love
be
it.
very into that show. Even though I'm not a big Juan fan, I think I would be very into that.
I don't think
Um,
he. I mean, obviously he'll be some type of producer because he originated with Insidious and have some kind to say. But it doesn't say that he is like very directly involved. So,
mm,
as far as I know,
yeah. Well, I will definitely check that out. Isn't Romulus coming out soon?
I don't know what Romulus is.
Alien Romulus, the show. Turns out that
Oh, I
that's
know.
actually gonna be is that with some of your news? Sorry.
It might. No, 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 no. Go on. It might be. You go on.
So so Alien Romulus, there's been a lot of speculation on where in the timeline of the Alien universe the story of the series is going to occur. And
It's a
from
different thing
here and
that I
from
was
what
told.
I
Yeah.
understand, it's going to be between the events of Alien and Aliens. So that is where the series will take place, is between those
Where's
events.
it gonna be available?
I, you know what? That's a good question. I will Google that. Somebody Google that. Somebody Google where that's at because I think it's going to be. I think it's Paramount Plus. What?
In the comments, they're talking
What?
about Hell Baby. I think you'd really like Hell Baby if you haven't already seen it. It's
I
so
haven't.
funny. Oh yes, watch Hell Baby. I recommend. It's very
Okay,
funny.
I'll
I
watch
think
it.
Hell Baby.
Wait, is that the
Hell
one that was on
Baby.
Netflix? I might have
I
seen
don't.
it.
I think I watched it on Shutter, but I'm not sure. Hell Baby. But Pessimisty, was it on Netflix? It's a comedy.
I have seen a comedy about a baby that's. Oh yeah, I have seen this.
I think it's funny. I think it's funny.
Yeah, no, he's funny. That guy, that actor is funny. The guy from Hot Tub Time Machine. Okay, so Romulus is supposed to occur between the events of Alien and Aliens, and I don't know much about the game, because a lot of people were breaking down some of the images from the set filming that are very similar to some imagery in the game, which is where the first idea of it being actually featuring Ellen Ripley's daughter, which I guess the game does. I don't know much about the game. I couldn't tell you if that's the case, but supposedly there's some comparisons being drawn. So it was rumored that the show was actually going to be based off of the game and be a
Hmm.
game adaptation, and the
Have you
events
played
are
the
going to
game?
occur as during Ripley's daughter's life, which is between the events of Alien and Aliens. So it is possible. There's like a good, what, 50 years or something? Because her daughter is like
50-52 or something like that. It's
deceased, right?
basically, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she's dead.
deceased when she comes back in Aliens. So that would be really interesting to see if that's what they're doing, if they're trying to like bring in the game fandom into the movie fandom. Hulu, it looks like. What? It's going to be on Hulu. Yeah. So I'm really excited for this because I think that the Alien franchise is such a big universe with so many possibilities. I just rewatched some of the prequels because I really like them. I like Prometheus and Covenant. I know a lot of people don't like Covenant. I like them.
I liked it
And
enough.
and I like how they opened up the door, I think, for even more to happen. And then like just anything. You can do anything with it. It's a universe, and that's exciting to me. And it's such a good creature. Like it's such a
Xenomorph.
freaking scary good creature. Yeah, it's like it's literally the perfect creature. Like
Yeah.
so
I
I'm
respect
excited
her
to see that
too.
show. So.
I respect her. Queen. The Xenomorph, the
Queen
mother.
Xenomorph mother. Yeah.
Mommy dearest.
So
A last scary or sexy dream? You can pass. I mean, you don't have to.
No, my last scary dream, I have recurring dreams that are typically the same events kind of take place, and they're always scary. It's like either dinosaurs or like sharks that I'm like getting attacked by. Um and or dangerous water, and like if I'm in the ocean in my dream, I immediately think of the worst things because I'm terrified of the ocean. So anytime I'm in the ocean in my dreams, it's going to be a bad dream and scary, and I just had one
I'm
like that.
terrified of the ocean.
um yeah, sharks are scary. There's always something in there that's touching me, and it's gross. I don't like it. And then yeah, I have recurring teeth falling out dream too. It's
Oh, I
usually when
have
I'm
that
really
too.
stressed. And then I
Well, they
have
say it's an indication of, and for me, it's kind of always been true, although I could always make it true, is because the dream around my teeth falling out is different always, but like that just
Mhm.
happens to be something they're just casually falling out.
Yeah, or they're just,
Is
like,
that
crushing apart or something.
yeah, or
Like
am swallowing them,
ugh,
something weird. It's always something like
yeah.
that. And then but it's usually in my life it's been like for some reason, even if it's just something as simple as maybe I'm not doing as well in a class or something. It's not always something intense,
Yeah.
but it's when you feel like you don't have certain control over things, like you're trying your best and
Yeah,
it's not working or
exactly.
mhm,
That's when I get them. And when I'm, like, really stressed or something, like,
mhm.
just things are piling up, or there's something subconsciously that I'm thinking about too much but not doing anything about. I'll have those types of dreams, but I get the dinosaur ones the most.
I don't
Dinosaurs
think I
just
ever have
always
one.
pop up in my dreams, like, randomly, or zombies. Zombies and dinosaurs.
So
So,
I had to,
they're
so
kind of fun, though.
I have
Scary, but
sleeping problems. Like I like not like intense insomnia, but close. And so I've done it. I'm doing this new sleep thing. It's not. I just don't want to go into it. It's not like as weird as I'm making it sound. But I have. But because of this, I have been remembering my dreams more. And I had a scary slash sexy dream. But I mean, so I'm working in a hospital. Can't remember what I'm doing. But apparently, I don't know. I don't remember why we're investigating this. But there's an attic that looks like it for some reason on the top of this hospital. It looks like it's from a Victorian house or something. And it's like to get to it, you have to go to the top on the elevator, and then open the elevator door on the top, and then there's this Victorian attic where all these vampires are apparently sleeping, and everyone's just like totally like it's just a thing, right? And then it's hard to describe, but ultimately it's not this. It's like it was more dream, like not making sensey. But there was one in particular that's kind of like a werewolf slash vampire. I'm thinking Bram Stoker's Dracula probably really affected me, and I probably have more dreams about this than I remember. But like, and he was more in peril and needed my help. They always need my help if it's a sexual dream. They need my help. It's weird. Okay,
the
that's why I want to
opposite
do
for
my.
me. I always need their help.
I They need my
I just
help,
wanna
and
be rescued.
I'm trying to like help it's again, it's not anybody specific. It's like a dream person. Like they have a face, but they really don't. I can't draw
Yeah.
them. And so, but and they're mostly in human form except for these weird wing things. But I am trying to keep them in the shadows from the light for a period of time, but there's a sexual tension.
As
So
there
that's my
would.
last
As there would be.
I have a weird like I don't think of myself as somebody that's like, oh, I need somebody that needs my help. I never think that, but I dream about it a lot, so that's a
The
thing.
the mayor asks if you've seen Exists. That's another found footage Bigfoot movie by the Blair Witch guys. We actually talked about that one in our cryptids episode. If you go check out our cryptids episode, we talk about that one.
Yeah,
we have seen it. I actually like that one. I like that better than Blair Witch, to be honest.
I like Blair Witch better, but that's just me.
Here's the question. What on earth did I just walk into? The coolest AMA ever, obviously.
Oh my god! Of course, it's my dream, and me
Yeah.
going into my
Oh, that's
psychology.
true. He did walk in on you talking about saving vampires, keeping them in the
Vampires slash
shadows,
werewolves.
sexual tension.
He needed
This
my
is my
help.
first time on
Okay.
Twitch. Well, welcome, Skinnamarink Dad. Wait, does that mean you just left your kids? Is that Are you the non-existent dad? Because I feel like in Skinnamarink, the dad doesn't exist, right? He just disappears.
He might be. He might be just the voice of the dad.
Oh,
But
the
hello
best.
and welcome either way.
Welcome, you guys, both of you.
And I do have a question here. Worst Blumhouse villain and best Blumhouse villain.
How about you go first on this one?
Oh, I don't know. Don't make me go first.
Well,
it's like I have to. I feel like I have to look it up because I feel like I'm
I'm not gonna.
miss
The ones
him.
I'm gonna think of right away are probably not what I would pick for this if I could have them all in front of me. But I feel like Megan. That's Blumhouse, right? Yeah, Megan
Yeah,
was Blumhouse.
definitely, 100%.
And Bagul are probably my tops because Bagul was freaking scary to me. But Megan is just a fucking icon. Is it Mary Shaw also?
I don't know actually, because I know it's James Wan, but I'm not sure. I'm looking here at all Blumhouse, and some of them are not horror movies. There's The Bay is Whiplash, Dark Skies, The Purge, Oculus, Green Inferno, the Insidious ones.
Ooh, The Lasser Glass. That's a good one.
Mercy, Unfriended, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, obviously the Ouija's, Jezebel, The Lazarus Effect, The Gallows, I remember that one. Sinister, obviously the Sinisters are there. Valley of Violence was a Blumhouse film, huh? Hush, another Mike Flanagan. Doesn't really have she's more iconic than the villain. Get Out, Happy Death Day, Truth or Dare, Black Klansman, Sharp
Man, that is
Objects.
super
Wow,
tough.
a lot of movies here that I don't expect to be. Puka, Glass that's a Blumhouse film. Wow. Sweetheart is also a Blumhouse film. Ma, I love Ma. I'm not a favorites person.
I am.
So, Run, Sweetheart, Run. You really like that one.
I really liked that one. I actually really like the villain in that one too. But I wouldn't say he's like the best. I don't know. This is tough. There's a lot of Blumhouse projects out there. Worst? Let me go through this list real quick and I'll just pick a worst. I don't know. The Gallows was really dumb to me. I did not like that one.
No, I mean it wasn't the worst thing I've seen. I had fun because I went with my brother Sam to see it, and there was a lot of like really noisy teenagers, but they weren't annoying. They were kind of like enhancing the experience because like whoa, like really reacting to the movie. That was fun. Megan is iconic. She's fun. She's a great villain, even though how much of a villain is she? Oh, it's Soft and Quiet.
Oh, I really did not like A House on the Bayou either. I thought that one was
I don't think I've seen
bleh.
that one. So okay,
wasn't a fan of Freaky, so maybe Vince Vaughn and Freaky. It was just kind of
that's really
generic
good.
AF.
He's the
So
not the Blumhouse slasher. Wow, idiot. The Blissfield slasher. That's the
yeah,
character.
really generic and boring. It's more about like him possessing a girl's body for a while. That's the plot of the movie. So I think that his villainry is much more of an afterthought. Um, so probably him. I would go with him.
So it's a hard. I'm not a favorites girl, and it's hard for me to pick. But off of the cuff, as kind of off of the cuff is obviously the grabber, and also Ma. I love Octavia Spencer, and that was a unique film. I think it's one that gets a lot of attention in my TikTok algorithm and circle, that people of folks that
Yeah,
think Ma's underrated, and it has it's just interesting. So
it is interesting.
but a lot of when I'm looking at a lot of the Blumhouse that is horror, which a lot of it is, but not all of it. It's really a lot more Lords of Salem, a lot more focused on the people that are being haunted or terrorized,
Mhm.
more so than the villain. Like Ma is more of a central villain. Megan is
Mhm.
more central
Creep is
villain.
more central.
Yeah, but like the Invisible Man, who's not my favorite, but it just makes me he's kind of secondary to her, even though he's the big threat, or the Grabber is the big threat, but he's secondary to the primary characters. That doesn't make he's so it's.
Great villain, Lawless, Guy Pearce in that.
I
Forget
haven't
it.
seen it.
He's so
Is that a
freaky.
Blumhouse?
It is Blumhouse, but it's not horror. But
It
it is
doesn't
one of
have
my
to be.
favorite
It's
movies.
fine.
I love that movie.
I should see it.
Um, you know, Tooth Fairy is Blumhouse. Oh, not the right Tooth Fairy. The Bay is Blumhouse. All right. Those things are freaky. That's a good villain. Um, a lot of these I actually really love the villain because they're so scary to me. Like Dark Skies, those aliens are scary.
Isn't that
Whew.
the one that they're saying the same Latin phrase over and over again? That one.
No, that is the fourth kind.
Okay, I get
Dark
it.
Skies is the one with the little kids, the kids, and
Okay, in the desert ish.
no, that's the
I obviously
darkness.
I don't. This is like
The
this is
darkness
meant.
is the one in the desert where the kid like brings back some like
Oh,
native American spirit, evil spirit that they had entrapped.
okay,
Um
yeah, okay. At least this isn't bad when you're talking about Michael Sheen, and I'm trying to say I think you mean Martin Sheen, but I can't remember Martin Sheen's name. That was a thing. Um, God.
Oh, In the
Uh,
Valley of Violence is Blumhouse. In the Valley of
yeah, but it
Violence.
doesn't have like. I mean, I guess you could consider John Travolta and his son villains, but it's not
His
the same. His
They're
son's a little
definitely the
shit.
villains, but he's a little shithead, and I don't like him. But he
No,
does
I
this
don't
such a
either.
good job. Like the
He's
character
supposed to
does a
be.
yeah, that's like the intention. So the Belko experiment, I really like that movie.
I don't think I
So
saw it.
I love the villains of that. Oh, you might like that one a lot. That one's really cool. Um, yeah, picking a favorite is hard, but I'm gonna go with Megan just because I love that movie because of Megan.
I probably
Like,
pick Megan. I mean, she's the central focus. But
yeah,
since you picked Megan already, I'll say Ma and the Grabber are my favorites.
Ma and the Grabber are good picks too.
The worst one,
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with Freaky.
for the worst one, oh, I
Yeah.
can't. I guess I love Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2. I don't think the villain's bad. I mean, it's not but the villain's not supposed to be memorable. So
Yeah.
I don't really know. I'm bad at picking worst and favorites. So let me think about it. Maybe I'll get back think of something. But
I'm gonna stick with my pick just because I think it's super generic. He's
the
not memorable.
Blissfield
It doesn't
Butcher.
even matter. The Blueshfield murder.
Here's another.
Guy
What do
Pearce
you?
is the ish in Lawless. Yeah, he is. He's so creepy. There's like
I don't
he's
think I've
got
ever
like
seen him play a
OCD
creepy
and
character.
he just keeps like messing with his hairline and it's to the point where he's like his hairline is a little bit wider than it should be. He's crazy. Creepy. What creature would be a match for xenomorph or predator? Are you asking who would win between a xenomorph and a predator or what creatures would other creatures would go up against and be a good match for them, like xenomorph and predator? I'm not sure I follow.
I'm bad at those questions too. I don't know.
Me too.
Godzilla? I don't know. The
The
Godzilla?
xenomorph, I would say the Thing would be a really cool one if the Thing
That's
can
cool.
if it can, like, assimilate with acid blood, then it could make a pretty sweet creature, but if it can't, if that's a weakness, I think it would be an interesting duke out, to see it scrambling to assimilate with other things to fight it. Like,
If Rita Repulsa can keep calling on other monsters, I'd like to see Rita Repulsa just keep on throwing her staff and make my monster grow, and then
fight the predator.
like fight the predator or the xenomorph.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a big Rita Repulsa fan, obviously, both the original and Elizabeth Banks. So,
And to be honest, with the predator, I think any other creature could go against the predator and be an interesting movie because the predator is a very humanoid.
it's about the
It's a
predator is
hunter.
about the
It's
hunt, yeah. So it
yeah.
matches the skills of the prey
You
because
could
it wants
replace a
that thrill.
person in any horror movie with a predator, and it would be an action version of that movie with that creature, and it would make an interesting film. So really, anything can match up against a predator if it can match up against a human. If a human can win, a predator could definitely win. But the xenomorph is a little trickier just because that acid blood.
That is trickier.
It's tricky. It's tricky. And they're a hive mentality. They're a hive, you know.
Ooh, I would also like to see the Borg
And they
Queen.
breed. They also assimilate to a
Borg,
degree.
yeah.
No,
Well,
no.
they
The
become one
xenomorph, I
mind.
mean. The xenomorph assimilates too, just like the Thing. So I think a xenomorph v Thing would be really interesting because they both have a form of assimilation. The xenomorphs assimilate with the creatures that they reproduce in, and they can become something new. And the Thing does that as well to a degree, except for it doesn't have a reproductive. It's more like mitosis, right?
Mhm.
Than like larval reproduction. Anyways, sorry, what were you saying now? Borgs? Borgs.
Oh, the Borg Queen with the collective of the Borg army against either one,
It was
especially
a
Predator.
network error.
Are we
Can you guys
live?
see it? Can you guys see it still?
I don't know.
Cool.
Oh, good. Okay. So, and then Optimisty was thinking what I was thinking. Predator versus Godzilla. Godzilla's got size on him. Or Xenomorph, because I mean, maybe like the acid blood isn't toxic enough to affect the force that is Gojira.
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 Yeah, they would be squished. End of movie. Godzilla could squish a xenomorph and then be like, ow.
Oh, I stepped on a Lego. That kind of like,
Dips its foot in water. Like the bay.
Gojira's a very
That's
good
a
metal
great
song,
question.
by the way.
What about your questions, Emma? What else do we got? I have to go in
Oh,
like 10 minutes. I gotta be done.
oh, okay.
I'm hungry. Hungry. I'm making pork chops. Pork chops. And
An
asparagus.
applesauce? Oh,
Asparagus.
asparagus is great.
I'm
Asparagus
making
is
a
great.
creamy garlic, oniony pork chops with asparagus
Do you want to answer a question about Britney
and mushrooms.
Spears or about letting kids watch horror?
Both.
Okay. So, question about kids. Do you all feel the same way about kids watching horror movies? And then the other one is, what do you think is going on with Britney Spears? Was the wedding real? Totally different questions.
So I've been very vocal about kids watching horror movies. My daughter watches scary movies with me all the time. If it's too much for her and she's vocal and we will turn it off or try something else, or she just goes and plays in her room and stops watching. I don't censor in my household, so there's no censoring swear words. I don't censor what I'm watching in front of her. We just talk about it. So she's very open with me and comfortable with talking to me about anything. So I create a safe environment for no topics to be off limits. And she's a spooky girl, just like I was. She loves the Scream franchise. She's obsessed with Jenna Ortega. So she really likes Wednesday. If you follow me on
I love
TikTok,
the
you've seen her.
dance. It's so
She did the
cute.
dance recently for the Wednesday dance because she got her Wednesday dress for her birthday. I got her for her birthday. Um, I have no problem with kids watching stuff like that. But I also fully respect other parents' boundaries for their children. So if a kid comes over to my house, I'm not going to have them follow my rules. I'm going to respect their parents' wishes. So if they don't want their kid to watch something and they have limits, then we'll respect those in our house because everybody's parenting style is different and it's ultimately the parent's decision, not mine. It's their child. However, I will never shame anybody for the decisions they make for their children if I don't know if it's nothing that's actually causing any harm to them. So Jamie Lee Curtis and I are not on good terms because of that.
I feel you. I feel you. I have a one of my best friends has a young daughter who I'm close with. Why do I have to say? But I was watching. I was working in my office and doing kind of something that was menial. So I had one of the Halloween films, one of the older ones, on in the background. And when she came in, I think she was probably 5 or 6 at the time. My initial reaction was like, "Oh, no, no, no!" So I'm like trying to cover it up, and she's like, "Oh, I love Michael Myers." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But then she, like, at the same time, because it was around Halloween time, probably, I can't remember exactly. But then
Mm-hmm.
she was talking about how she wasn't like, she's not scared of watching Michael Myers, and she's seen a lot of the movies. I don't know which ones, but she was scared by one of the recent Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors that had zombies in it. So everyone has their different things that scare them. I'm not a
Yeah.
parent. I'm not a parent, so it's hard, but I think it's as again, like you said, as long as children aren't being harmed, I think it's not my business how other people let their kids or not let their kids watch stuff. If I had a kid, so very hypothetical, I probably would start off with light stuff. Like if they're too freaked out by Beetlejuice, maybe they don't have to go to, maybe we'll watch Paranorman or Coraline and not go
Mm-hmm.
straight to horror. But kids self-regulate, don't get enough credit for their self-regulation, and I do think it's important to
Yeah.
explore. So it would depend on what my child would be like. I don't have one, so it would depend on them
That
as
is
well.
exactly it. That is the most important and key part because my daughter is very vocal about her boundaries and comfort. And that is very important to me for her to continue to be that way and to have that skill for the rest of her life. So if she's ever uncomfortable or scared, she'll tell me. And I know she will. And I trust that she will. And she has. We were watching The Thing because she liked this poster. That's how she ends up actually getting introduced to most of the horror. She'll see something I have or a shirt I'm wearing and say, let's watch that. And then we'll watch it. And then she'll decide whether it's too much or not. The Thing was too much for her. It was too scary. So we turned it
Definitely
off
get that.
but she'll rewatch all of the Scream movies over and over and over again. Right now, Scream 6 is her favorite. And that's probably the most bloody, like the most brutal of all of them. And it's her favorite. It's not because it's scary. And she pretends she's Ghostface, and we joke about it and say the lines to each other. She's
It's
not
funny too.
violent because of it. She's not like, she understands the violence in it, and she understands that it's not real, especially because she loves Jenna Ortega. So she sees her in a lot of different things. Um, but, there are things I wouldn't introduce to her yet because I think she's too young to see certain things like X. I wouldn't let her watch X probably. I wouldn't turn it off if I'm watching it. If she comes in and I'm watching it, I'm not going to just shut it off real fast and like hide it like some shameful thing. But I'm not going to purposely put it on for us to watch together because I just don't think that's an appropriate film for me and my daughter to watch together. Um, but we watch movies that have some sort of kissy stuff going on in it. Scream, they have intercourse and Scream. They just don't blatantly show it like they do on X. So it's just what's appropriate, I think, for the conversation that she's ready to have. And she's 5. She's not ready for that conversation yet. Like, so it really is about how you are with your kid and how your kid is with you and how your kid is just is, what they're capable of taking in and being okay with.
I remember I had a friend when I in elementary school. Like we were all at a sleepover, and we couldn't watch Jurassic Park because she was too scared of Jurassic Park. But we got to watch Labyrinth instead, so that's always a win. But so everyone is different. So she was. This is probably fifth grade or something like that. So she's
Mhm.
not a little kid, but she's a kid. So and that's fine. So kids are different. She was allowed to watch
Right.
Jurassic Park, but she was like we all have our things. So that's.
I think it's more important to teach kids to be okay with vocalizing their boundaries and standing by their boundaries and comfort, and making those decisions autonomously without influence. I think it's a better skill than hiding stuff from them or keeping them away from being exposed to things, because the facts
Doesn't it
are
just make it
you're
more
not around all
boring?
the time. Well, and you're not around all the time. They're going to be exposed to that stuff whether it's with you or without you. And I would prefer it if my daughter was learning to be vocal and understanding and learning her boundaries in the safety of my home than outside of it, where she can have conversations with me where I control the narrative as a parent, on what is when to talk to her about stuff and how to talk to her about it, while also not making her feel ashamed to ask or talk about it. Where, like, if she's in a classroom and thought pops in her mind and she asks the teacher and the teacher says, "Oh, it's not an appropriate time to talk about that." I don't want her to feel that shame, because we've already talked about it, so she doesn't have to worry about that. Um, but also, I think it's really important to teach your kids to respect boundaries. So my daughter, when people come over, or when we were at my dad's house, that's what it was. And my stepsister's kids were there as well. And she wanted to watch Scream on her tablet. But one of my stepsister's kids wanted to watch it with her, but didn't think Scream was appropriate and would be too scary for him. So I had to teach her in that moment, like, you got to pick something else because you got to respect his boundary. Even though yours might be different, you should respect his. And I think that's a better skill than shame ever will be, or
I agree.
deciding what's evil or not. Like a movie is going to have some evil influence over you. I think that can be really diminishing of people's autonomy.
Hey, that's what New Nightmare is all about, man.
Yeah.
It is.
Emma could perform a song about the dogs that is opposite of Florence and the Machine. The dog days are over.
Have you heard me sing? You
No.
don't want that. Yeah, I sing a lot on the podcast. It just does not sound like singing. You don't want that. Trust me. No.
Oh, and then the Britney Spears question was next, right?
Oh yeah. What do you think is going on with Britney Spears? Was
I
the
don't know.
wedding real?
Yes,
I mean,
sure.
probably. But I've been a Britney Spears fan since her first album came out. I remember Felicia. I'm not gonna say her last name because just why not? Why do that? Felicia in my elementary school, I believe sixth grade, went up to Coach Martin. Is like, can we listen to this while we run into the gym? And he looks at like the CD case, like, okay, does this look like appropriate? Like, does it have a warnings? And that's the one where Britney's just like a pink background and going
Yeah.
like that. So he's like, it's okay. This is probably okay. And so we're listening to Britney Spears when Jeff's up. But I don't know a ton about the Free Britney movement that had to do with her conservatorship. I know pretty much what most people know. I do
Mhm.
think. I mean, I don't know if she's having a tough time. I don't know anything about her mental health. I don't want to assume anything. I don't know why anybody does anything or what anybody is thinking, even myself sometimes. So
Mhm.
I think that there are a lot of conspiracy theories and such, and I know people want to help, but I mean, I think it's fine to be a fan of somebody, but I think it gets to a point where it crosses a line. where like if you say, oh, I miss how Britney used to be, or this person isn't really Britney, it's a clone or something, it feels like you're not trying to insult her, but it feels like an insult. Like,
I
she's
don't know what it
allowed to
is.
be
I
herself.
love those. I love those TikToks so much. They're
They're
so
so
inappropriate and they're so gross. I do not disagree with you. But for some reason, I love watching the conspiracies. Like it's fascinating. It's like watching that Ancient Aliens show. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they go really like, it's like, because I love Britney
really
Spears,
deep,
and then I
man.
do watch them because I am fascinated by that.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I don't
fascinated by
believe it.
them, not like the conspiracy.
I'm not judging them. I get like wanting to, like, needing an escape from reality, and like
Yeah.
having this idea that you could help Britney Spears. But at the same time, and some people, some of them, I think they are just doing it for views, and some of them I think are trying to earnestly help Britney Spears. But
It's
I mean,
unfortunate that it took that movement to actually help her because I do have an opinion on the conservatorship stuff, but I don't have an
I don't
opinion
agree with it.
anymore about where she's at. I think it's incredibly disgusting to have a conservatorship on someone who's able-bodied enough to work. If they're working and able
And
to
gain
work
money from
and
her. Yeah.
be successful, you should not have any conservatorship on them outside of maybe the ability to do mental health checks or something, or to ensure that they're, they have someone around to help them and so they don't slip or have a break or something like that to protect them, better security measures, something along those lines makes sense. But a conservatorship is just indentured servitude. It's slavery. It's not okay. And I think that's disgusting that it's even possible because conservatorships were not designed for that. They were designed for when someone gets to the point where they're unable to care for themselves, unable to work for themselves, to have someone be able to help them with those things. And that is not what happened with her. She was able bodied enough and there enough to perform all the time, days and days on end in Vegas, in one of the most successful Vegas shows of all time, and you're gonna tell me she also needs a conservatorship, so she's capable but incapable? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
That sounds disgusting. So I get that side of it. It's unfortunate that it took a bunch of people, a mass of people on social media to get her out of that situation because it opens the door and sets a precedence for people to be able to make these types of assumptions about people they really don't know and situations they don't have all the facts for, to feel more
A part of
entitled
her.
to and like validated in some of their delusion, which is unfortunate because I don't think they're wrong about the conservatorship. I think they're wrong about the some of it, though. I think to some degree there was a need for help, but I don't think that
It's a very unique situation.
it is.
It was. I don't.
Mhm.
So it's so for as somebody that grew up with Britney Spears' music, and she
Yeah.
seems like a nice person. I wish her well, and I hope that she gets the life she wants, whatever it is, and she
Yeah.
gets to have a relationship with her children. Which that's one of the only things that I've seen that seems personal, and like we know that that's important to her because it's important to everybody usually. Like if you're a good
Mhm.
parent. So I just hope she lives a, and she, she's allowed to marry a guy that maybe is not great. That's part of being an adult. Like, you're able to make your own decisions. I don't know much about him. You know what? But you,
Autonomy is so
yeah.
important.
I mean, being able, her autonomy. She's not always, as a human being, not just as Britney Spears specifically, as any human being. We all make mistakes. We all have hard times, and it's unfortunate for a lot of celebrities. It's very much in the public eye. And
Mhm.
millions of people see it, or even if
Yeah.
it's just hundreds of thousands. So I wish her well, and I feel like if she is in a troubled situation, I don't know enough about it to do anything that could be helpful, me personally. So I
Yeah,
think
I
it's best to
that's
just
where I'm at too.
respect, like, leave my personal opinions, which I really only have any, because I know there's a lot I
I
don't
don't.
know. I just
Yeah.
hope she seems very nice and sweet. I grew up with her music, and I hope she lives primarily a healthy
I
and
hope she
happy
has
life.
some peace with all of
Peace.
it.
Oh my god. Yeah. And some
What's the
fun.
next question? We can do one more and then I gotta pop on out.
Okay.
I love you guys,
Um,
but I gotta eat. I think I talked about food a lot this episode.
mm.
Like, I'm a foodie. I like food.
There are a few questions, but I want to like ask one that's.
A good one. Good one to
Mm.
exit on. Or like a really bad one to exit on.
I think we've already done
One
the really
extreme or
bad
another.
ones, or I've ignored them. Um,
I don't know how you're gonna make a face hugger work on Godzilla. I mean, they could just like wrap around his what is that thing called in the back of your throat?
the uvula.
Uvula. Yeah, uvula. Uvula. Face hugger can hug his uvula.
Favorite new horror TV show.
uh I don't know if Silo counts. It's post-apocalyptic.
It's our show. We can say it counts.
I would say Silo right now is my favorite show. It's so interesting and it's on Apple TV. It's post-apocalyptic, a little Lost vibes, a lot of like mystery and unanswered questions and unknowns going on and revelations. It's got like a Snowpiercer vibe, but less dark because there's still some hierarchy and some classism going on in it, but it's not to the degree that Snowpiercer was. Um, so it's a really interesting show. I really like it. And it's got like some sci-fi like what's going on mystery. I It's really cool. And Rebecca Ferguson's fantastic.
Is it kind of like
Um
Lost in a similar way,
it's
like what's going
very
on, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's very similar. When I say like whenever I compare a show to Lost, it's strictly because Lost has you literally have no freaking clue what's going on. And you're slowly getting revealed things from different people or storylines that could be anything.
Remember
And
how
your
big a
mind
deal
can
that
just go a
polar bear
million
was?
ways. Yeah. And like that's exactly how this show feels. It's like every little detail you catch, you're like, oh, what is that? It's really interesting. And this is so far in the future, they don't even remember why they're in the silo or what's going on outside the
It's like beyond
silo.
their generation.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's a really cool concept. So I highly recommend that. That's probably my favorite show right now outside of Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets is
A
so
lot of
good.
people are really fans of Yellow. I've been meaning to see it. I have not seen a new show recently at all. I'm more of a movie gal. I do watch shows. I do love shows. I'm not.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say
Oh,
From. From is so good. I'm
what's that
really into
about?
From also. That's the one where they like are driving and they just kind of like they come across a tree had fallen in the road. And then they end up in this, it's kind of like an alternate dimension. They don't know how to get out of it. It just keeps circling around. They try to drive away from this town, they just keep ending up back inside this town. And at night, these creatures come out that look like people, but they're like, and they like shred you and kill you
Oh,
and
that's
eat
cool.
you. And they're very like torturous, like they like to play with their food kind of thing. Um, and the only way to keep them out is these little sigils on rocks that they put in the doors, and then they just stay inside at night.
Very
So
Moses.
it's but there's more going on. And this is also a very lost like show because you're uncovering more and more like mystery as people are trying to figure out how to get home. It's so interesting. I really like that show. It gives me such Stephen King vibes if Stephen King was to write Lost.
That would be cool.
That's
That would
what
be
it gives.
cool.
Because it has like
Well,
what's that show, Desperation? It
I don't
reminds me a lot
know.
of the story
I'm very
Desperation.
behind on series. The last newest series that I just recently finished, I hadn't seen the last season, was Better Call Saul. I just recently finished it. And Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are both great examples of like you could do a very brilliant study on cinematography alone in both shows. I'm a
Yeah,
fan of both. It's brilliant and in their storytelling, more so Breaking Bad. Although I do really like Better Call Saul. But so Breaking Bad, I've watched the whole series 4 times. That's how much I love that show. That's
I
how much
didn't
I love
even
that
finish
show.
it.
That's okay. I'm just fine. Well, part of it was also I had watched it alone, and then I watched it with my wife at the time, who is no longer my wife, for almost 10 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We even dressed, so we were for the finale of Breaking Bad, because we're such big fans. We were invited to like a watch party, like a physical watch party, where we would go and watch the finale with a bunch of people, and we knew it probably wasn't a dress up thing, but I dressed up like Walt. Like I had my hair up in the hat and the glasses, and she was dressed like early era Jessie. It was, and then we got Skylar vodka. We were really nerdy about it. It was really fun. Loved it. And we even dressed as Walt and Jesse for Halloween. One year, I can't remember which one it was. It was before that, and I was Jesse, early era Jesse, like those pants that were popular in the early 2000s that were always falling off boys' hips because they were so wide and baggy and stupid.
Jenko.
And yeah, I got it just like like that, and I had I just got it all from Goodwill, and just kept on saying yo a lot. It was really fun.
If you like Yellow Jackets, but you want something a little less serious, I highly recommend Class of '07. It's like a New Zealand version of Yellow Jackets, but more of a comedy, like a dark comedy. It's so funny. It's so funny. That one's good.
I don't know.
That one's on Amazon, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree, Pessimisty. Breaking Bad, I agree and disagree. Breaking Bad technically is not a horror, but there's got a lot of horrific murders in it, and someone completely explode. I mean, we see Danny Trejo's severed head on a tourist. Okay, I mean, I think that's pretty horrific. So it's not like a straight up horror, but it definitely has horror type
thriller elements, right? It's kind of like a yeah. Okay, you guys, I gotta go. I gotta go eat, and I gotta cook my food. So thank you guys so much for showing up and always being there for us. We appreciate you. What great questions this time. Don't forget, we'll try to do these every week like we usually do until Crystal can get back and we can get back to our regular scheduled programming. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Instagram because we will post that we'll be doing an AMA there, and join our Discord, and you guys can go ahead and ask us questions and get questions submitted to us either in Discord or on Instagram. And
you can ask us anything.
And you can ask us live here in the live too.
I mean, and if you want to ask me a question, but you don't want to use the anonymous app, just let me know. Hey, don't shout out my name, and that's fine. I won't do that. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. So, oh God.
When's the next Misty night?
Oh yes. Okay. So Misty night. That's exactly what I was going to touch on. I am going to do an update on that. I figured out the week it's going to be, but I'm going to ask you guys about the day, which most likely it'll be later in the weekend. That seems to work for most people, but we'll discuss it within the Discord, which is part of the free part of our Discord. We do have a special Prioritize Slasher chat if you're a Patreon, but Misty Nights is for everybody. So it's going to be like the third week of June, from my memory. I'd have to look at my calendar, but I'm going to go into more details about it soon. And I might just pick the movie, you guys. I might just pick the movie.
So for our patrons, I'm going to ask you guys to do drop some film names in our Discord, our patrons, and me and Emma will give you a rec for each rec that you drop in there, and I'll make a video to post on our Let Us In TikTok and YouTube channel, similar to what I do on Instagram. So we'll post them all over the place for you guys. But we want to hear from the patrons.
So thank you guys. Have a good night. Keep up with both of us are mostly primarily either active in the Discord or Instagram. I have a Twitter as well. You know, I'm there, but not there. So thank you. We had a great night.
It was a lot of fun. I always look forward to this. Bye-bye. As I awkwardly look for